All right, chat, welcome in. We are live. NFL Week 3 is underway. The late window is underway. We've got, of course, Red Zone on in the background to keep up with the slate of games. But in the national primetime spot, we've got the Bears-Cowboys chat. And I got, we got to start here. We got to focus because it's the Bears. We got to focus now because we may not be focusing on this game later. Hey, yo, chat, it is what it is. I hate to start like this. Again, we just have to, I guess, honestly set the table for where we're at just mentally going into this game. Again, not necessarily Bears fans, but still just as a football fan. Again, you sort of collect your, I guess, opinions, but then like this, yeah, of course. But then I guess we always use the phrase, the stock and the guy. And of course we had the Caleb Williams stock, but this is the kind of the first game where I feel like in just the first sort of stretch as well too of his career and it's just us, honestly, this is not saying like, and has no, of course, indication on what is honestly going to happen with his career. Again, where we're at, honestly, in this game, chat, is, the Bears offense started at a 4th and 12. Our opinion of Caleb Williams is at a 4th and 12 right now. Chat, it is what it is. I feel like, again, we sort of shifted his career upside potential just for us mentally into a little bit of a different career path after the last couple of you don't want to say it's only 2 years. We're only into year 2 at this point. We're 3 weeks into the again that short of a career span. Guys have, and like we've talked about with Baker and some other guys, like guys and situations change, and maybe even still, like, we love Ben Johnson as a offensive mind, but maybe it's just still not quite the right pairing, and who knows ultimately what again, what pieces will fit together for Caleb Williams to have that success on the field, because it's clear that he's had, of course, the football success, the arm talent, all that stuff is still there. But again, just the way that the off season, the whatever sort of, I guess, that sort of improvement is going to be, the new coach thing. And I get that, again, speaking of Ben Johnson as well too, there is, of course, the conversation with the timeline for people picking up, learning his playbook and learning his system and all the different stuff. But regardless, again, it's been some missed opportunities in some throws through the first couple of weeks that you just feel like, again, they're there for him. That if he starts getting those, and maybe those are the ones that, like, okay, you should be getting. I don't know what happens as an NFL quarterback, once you hit the ones that you should be getting. I think the special thing about Caleb Williams, of course, as a quarterback, was it's like he's also going to hit the ones that he's not supposed to get as well too. He's going to create the extra plays. But regardless, if he was able to start, and again, for year 2, starting to just get some consistency on the throws that he should make, then with Ben Johnson, with this team, he could become, again, a really good NFL quarterback and start to reshape our opinion of what maybe his future in the NFL is. But at this point, again, I feel like, and maybe, again, we've been operating on the higher side of what the Caleb Williams potential is, just in terms of the conversation. People may be defending it over the course of his rookie season and maybe the off season. I guess, I don't know if we're not, saying that we thought that he was going to ever be the best quarterback in the league. I did think that he could be really, really, really good, though. And I guess maybe never verbalized, like, what an actual, sort of way that could actually be defined as, all pros, like MVPs again. Like, I guess I'm trying to go back. Did I ever think maybe he could have won, like, the MVP of the league? But that sort of is a different line for that, Super Bowl winning quarterback as well too. I think I thought he could, of course, get to that level where he's quarterbacking really good playoff teams and competitive level teams, and you could put maybe championship type rosters around him and he could help power him through. But again, I feel like at this point, and maybe we've honestly, again, first quarter, chat, we don't want to just start off with the crazy takes like this. But, again, maybe it's even shifted a couple levels at this point where I still, again, I'll keep the positive, as much as I can. Chat, like, I still think he can be a above average NFL quarterback. I don't know, again, the sort of playoff championship level stuff is, I guess we'll just, again, have to see consistency, how that continues to develop. But I guess maybe we're not giving up on even if it's like the Tua season from a couple of years ago where, and it's like, okay, yeah, the trade, the expectations, all the different stuff, but the moment where he just has a bunch of really good stats, the Sam Darnold timeline, like, I still, and like, what are we talking about here with Caleb Williams? And, the start of year 2 as well. But I feel like I would still hold out hope that even that is a possibility, that we've seen those kind of reclamation projects have success. And like we were saying with Baker as well, too. And, Baker has not even been just like a reclamation project per se. He's actually, I think, fully kind of reshifted his, value as a quarterback, at least in good offenses. And, maybe even a little bit more than that this year if he continues to help elevate that team with some of these game-winning drives. But, it took him a couple years, and maybe for him, it's a little bit different because you could say that earlier on in some of those Browns teams, Baker was showing a little bit, Baker was maybe showing a little bit more in Oklahoma too, Chet. I don't know, but, Baker was, showing out me wherever he goes. But, Baker was, talent-wise anyways, on the field, producing a little bit more for the Browns earlier on. And even though there wasn't necessarily some team success, and again, it maybe impacted his individual play at some point. And, outside of Cleveland as well, too, it's not, I guess, and you could say, obviously, he was in a lot of maybe not the most well-run organizations, well-run teams, coaching staffs that maybe aren't all in place at this moment in his stops in the past. So it's easy to say that, I guess, they just didn't see his talent as well, too. But also, again, he wasn't just like, it was a little bit of the Arch Manning. Like, he wasn't necessarily just go on out. And I guess we'd have to go back. And he might have been the sneaky, like, oh, Baker is kind of winning all these jobs. But I'm trying to think of, like, why exactly did the Panthers have him playing defensive end, Chet? Man, it is the Panthers, of course. That's the excuse at the end of the day. But I don't know. Maybe you never, like, how bad does it have to get for it? Just the fact they're playing any quarterback at practice squad defensive end is just, just get a practice squad defensive end, Chet. What are we doing? Like, I guess, is that Belichick? Maybe they're actually thinking levels ahead. It's like we have to keep Baker on the. They're not getting credit for keeping Baker on the roster as a practice squad defensive end. They had the extra vision. Hey, yo, chat, special teams are having quite the day. And Seattle special teams as well, too, we should say, because they just blocked a punt or a kick. I don't even know. We've also, I should mention, we got, of course, the focus on the one game. We got Red Zone. We've also got a WNBA playoff game. The Aces are entering the fourth quarter right now. Second round versus the Fever. Asia Wilson got the MVP, Chet. I don't know if, we all saw Bam present her with the award. I think if not, a House of Highlights shout out. But, I guess, is this 3, 4? I guess four MVPs, because I thought I saw a post after that was, like, basketball MVPs 4 times before the age of 30, and it was, like, Kareem, LeBron, maybe it was Jordan, I guess, because maybe he would have won some of those in the 30s. I forget who that fourth guy was, but it was definitely Kareem and LeBron, and then Asia Wilson as well too. So shout out, the historic run definitely continues. But we've gotta have that on as well too, because that seems like it's gonna be a dramatic fourth quarter here. And unfortunately, right now the Aces are a little bit on the wrong side of the drama. But we have the MVP, so hopefully that fourth quarter will be okay. But that'd be incredible, of course, for the Fever as well. And we'll have to look and see, is this second round, I'm assuming they moved to best of 5 now, right? Instead of best of 3. So, shorter series, of course, every game isn't more important at this point, but at least there's still a little bit of life versus, the 0-1 deficit in the best of 3. It does start to get pretty panicky at that point. But, again, we do have, of course, the best player on the court. But the Fever, without Caitlin Clark to be able to make this competitive push into the playoffs, of course. And it's not even again, like, what could have happened with, and that's, of course, a very legitimate storyline as well, too. We're not dismissing that as a possibility. But just to, again, prove that there is that sort of foundational piece there in Boston beforehand to build that championship type of team around. Again, she was like a number 1 pick, right? I want to say, she was definitely a top 10. A top 10, I mean, like a top end talent in the draft. But I want to say that she was actually the number 1 overall pick. By idea. And was it back-to-back, Clark and Boston, number 1 overall pick? Oh, chat! Caleb Williams! Did he get a Dunze down the field? Hey, yo! I guess we're watching this on the Red Zone right now. Oh, the Red Zone a little bit ahead of the live feed. Hey, yo, who knew? Scott Hansen locked in. But we looked up. Anytime just the receiver is running down the field before the catch on the Bears, when you're looking at that spread. Oh, chat, a Dunze with the, at the line of scrimmage, the hand fighting the legal jab, but he got Diggs on the ground. Hey, yo, chat. He got him on the ground. Diggs with the, for getting knocked down, a decent recovery, but Adunze was definitely open on that play. So shout out, again, those are the throws that you're supposed to hit. You go back and look and you're like, oh, quote unquote, how good is the quarterback if he's making those type of throws? But it's like, let's just see that. And then, oh yeah, he's in his second year, and that's another down the field throw to, they're backing up a couple plays now in the red zone, pause, to a throw down the field that set him up for that. To the tight end. Again, open guy, and maybe this is a little similar to the Arch Manning thing as well too. And, for Arch, it's a little different. I guess, again, we sort of shifted our expectations versus we thought he was going to be the #1 pick versus this year, where I don't know if the hot take at this point is still Arch Manning is going to be the #1 pick, but maybe, it's like, okay, we'll push it next year's draft. He can, continue to progress and be like, Arch Manning will be the #1 pick in 2026. But again, I'm not out on the idea that Arch Manning's going to be the #1 pick at some point. It's just maybe this year it's a little far-fetched to see if, and not maybe too far, but, again, with the rough start, we'd have to see. I mean, that tape does exist, so the evaluators, are at least going to have those question marks regardless of how good he plays, but we'll see if he continues to turn it around. Maybe evaluators have obviously always, and us included, we've always, really focused on the positive parts of his game, so if he just shows a bunch of those, pause, then maybe he'll just be back in the mix. But again, he could definitely be #1 overall, so I'm not against that necessarily. But like we're saying, we've had to move around the timeline. So if he starts working back to getting those open passes and just okay, that guy's, and we were taking that a little for Arch as well too, to just show we were taking that a little bit for granted. And the San Jose State game, I guess, was it one of it was that second game of the season after the Ohio State game, because he put up good stats, but it was open guys, he's not hitting anybody in stride. And again, that is obviously something you do want your quarterback at some, the highest levels of accuracy and all that different stuff. But it's okay, at least he's still getting the completions and putting points on the board. And then the next game, it was oh man, now we're even taking a step back from that. And that's where we were kind of at with the Caleb Williams experiment, just a bunch of Arch Manning's third games, chat. Hey, I don't know if that's the right way to put it. We're not trying to be too disrespectful here, chat. It might be too late, but if we just get back in that, okay, guys are open, we're making throws down the field, we're showing that we can make the reads as well too, because Johnson's gonna make him. Ben Johnson's gonna make him make some reads and make him sit in the pocket a little bit. And I don't know if you can necessarily design out of the pocket creation in plays. I mean, I guess you can bootlegs and stuff and get your guy rolling out, but Caleb Williams, and not to say that we don't want to see him again progress going through, sitting in the pocket, making some quick decisions, but maybe to help get some of those positive plays early as well too. He's obviously in college showing his ability to create and extend plays and that type of stuff. So to be able to kind of help work in those elements, maybe. I don't really know how you create that, but maybe it's just Caleb Williams' comfortability and all that stuff as well too, because in some of these pressure moments, and just his ability to avoid pressure has necessarily not been the best as well either, where it seems like maybe when there is a lane, he's kind of stepping into guys that are gonna get the sack. So Dak on this drive, early starting off. But, again, against the Cowboys defense, this would be that type of have the opportunity to have a bounce-back game anyways. And the Cowboys defense has definitely played well in some good moments. If we're doing the football math, Eagles offense, still, I don't know if it's going to be a game where, I guess we'll get to that game in a little bit, but, it's not necessarily it was the all-time Eagles offensive game. So it's okay, I don't know. We still don't quite know, I guess, how impressive the Cowboys' performance was in Week 1, and it was weird as well, too, because of the delay and all the different stuff. But, it's still obviously maybe not quite a top 10 defense in the league. I guess maybe at its highest end, it could still be a above-average defense. But still an opportunity for Caleb Williams where, Lions defense, the personnel there, and obviously that game spiraled out of control. That game was brutal. But that personnel is still really, really talented. And then, Minnesota Week 1 as well, too. again, a really talented personnel. Divisional rivals, there's some familiarity there with just the personnel on the Bears, but also now Ben Johnson as a coach. Like the Vikings were facing Ben Johnson as a coach last year too, so at least they're recognizing maybe some of the stuff there's some similarities there in the stuff that he's doing. But now against a sort of maybe a little bit of a step back from the defensive roster, and again, we still want to. Of course, see him play well against the highest levels of teams, but we just need to get the man back on track, Chad. We need momentum. It's all quarterback development is about momentum. You gotta in preseason. I guess we have to go back and look at the preseason. How much did he play? Like, did he have a chance to develop that kind of momentum in the preseason? Maybe he needed it, but that's this could be an early get momentum start. And I think maybe if we look at the schedule, there is opportunities for them in the season. Maybe some easier games. Bo Nix on third down, though. 3rd and 13, not able to get the conversion. Throwing to the sticks, though, is, and, we've said this about Bo Nix early on, and the grades for him, unfortunately, have been pretty brutal to start. Another just, sorry to Arch Manning. Another Arch Manning, Chet. Hey, it is what it is. Arch Manning, be better, Chet. We want Arch, maybe not, but we want Arch Manning on the Colts, so I don't know which way to, this, if he's going to go in the draft this year, being worse is going to be the way to do it. We're not taking him in the first. Make no mistake, Chet. Hey, even if they, call the REMINGTOM pod, if Ballard calls the pod, we're like, you probably can't take Arch in the first. Let's maybe get some other talent there. But, there are some expectations, of course, for the Broncos this year, and Nix was definitely a hinge point on that for what the upside of the team could be. Because you still see, a couple of weeks in, I guess it's only 3-3 early on now. Still no bad losses, getting destroyed. Like, teams going in and proving like they're the way better team. And even the last week against the Colts, it's just a penalty at the end of the game that results in that loss there. And the Titans game maybe a little bit closer. Maybe that's the game where it's like, okay, the fact that it's close is not great. Maybe you'd want to go out and be a little bit more dominant in that one. Not necessarily a great performance from Nix as well. But I guess, again, it's not necessarily gone disastrous from a whole roster standpoint early on to where it's like, okay, now we're, if Nix can, again, build momentum over the course of the season, they can get back to the expectations that they've had as well, too, because, like, Benito's played well. I know, Surtain, there's been maybe some secondary stuff that's a little bit concerning, but Benito being a guy is, of course, if you can get pressure on the quarterback with deal, that defensive line is still seeming like, still a issue to deal with as well, too. But at least, again, Nix is being aggressive, and I don't know if Peyton can sort of pull back the reins a little bit on what's going on, and maybe it's just his decision-making in general. And is that CeeDee Lamb, chat, going down with an injury? Oh, is he rolling an ankle there? Oh, no, chat, you don't want to see that. I mean, especially from the fantasy standpoint, the stats, I guess more, it all goes to the Cowboys offense and how much they rely on CeeDee Lamb as well, too. But, the fact that he's got sort of this opportunity with this reliance, like, get your numbers, you have this chance. So we don't want to see the man, missing out on that as well, too. But Dak, 4 for 4 to start, 20 yards. Hey, chat. He is, I guess, cooking to start early on. But 2nd and 6 from midfield, kind of a slow drive. And the run games looked pretty good early on. Again, I don't know if that's a problem for the Bears. Yeah, their defense is a little battered up as well, too. So I guess we're not necessarily saying, hey, the Bears are going, we hope the Bears win the game. It's like, can Caleb Williams just play well? Hey, Spencer Rattler, the little shuffle pass to Alvin Kamara. Defenders draped all over him, chat. Pressure in the pocket. Again, disastrous special teams game for the Saints special teams. Vice versa, great special teams game for the Seahawks special teams, which is the main reason that it's 21-0 right now. And then in that Saints game, but Rattler's been Rattler's gonna be one of the feistiest, 0-16 quarterbacks we've had, Chad. Hey, because the Browns were able to get the win. If Flacco had continued to find ways to lose these games at the end, then Flacco would have been up there for feistiest 0-16 quarterbacks. Cam Ward, again, the Titans didn't really keep it close today, so I don't know if there's a feistiness level. So I guess the Saints aren't necessarily close. We can't, I guess, but they could fight back as well, too. Again, 21-0, maybe they score on this drive. The Seahawks offense maybe still not necessarily like fully rolling Special teams, like, okay, they've had the moments for the day. They get another score late, and then it's kind of 14-21. It's like, oh, there we go. The Saints are at least one score in this game. Rattler will find a way to lose by just just enough to be like, maybe something was interesting there. But that kind of at least confidence that's starting to build as well too. Again, and now maybe not to just focus too much, of course, on Williams, and like he is the primetime game in the back. So pause. Like that is maybe again the reason that it's at the front of the mind right now. I don't know if we have to pause that as well too. But again, I think there is a little bit of a comparison as well too, because Williams did take over for Rattler at Oklahoma for the season that he was there. So at least there's overlapping storylines in some ways. But just in terms of, again, comparing expectations for quarterback development, you don't necessarily want to say talent level, because that's, again, just something that we're kind of subscribing to all these players at some way. It's just sort of a random thing that we're throwing out. But again, that sort of perceived talent level of Caleb Williams being that number 1 overall pick, and again Rattler, and I think even still, some of the high level moments. I guess the Bears are upset. The Bears have more points right now than Rattler, and Caleb Williams has looked a little more confident today as well too. Cowboys in a 4th and 2, just trying to get the Bears off sides. Are they going to punt here? I mean, the Bears offense hasn't looked great all year, so if you're going to punt and just try to play the field position game, I get it. If they're going to look good this year or in this game, then you don't want to necessarily give them the short field. But is Cowboys offense go for that early? I don't know. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Be a little aggressive this year. Brian Schottenheimer, Chad, start whipping it out. I don't know. Maybe you just 7-0. You don't let it get too out of control at this point. But Kyler Murray scrambling for the first down. I don't know which 49ers defender he just left in the dust there. But that's kind of an old school Kyler Murray play. It's some of the, you don't want to just say speed stuff, but some of those kind of distant, and that wasn't necessarily a distance run play, but those, he's just going to just escape that defender that is chasing him from behind. They don't necessarily seem to have been as crazy as in the past. But, Aubrey, chat, 53. I guess that's why you don't necessarily go for it there, because you're in field goal territory. For Aubrey, I don't know if he is an analytics darling or an analytics destroyer, because that does feel like, again, a perfect spot, at least on the field, pause, to go for. Do you have to pause that for a field, chat? It might be crazy that we just paused it for a field. I'm not sure. But, it might be that perfect spot for going for that 4th down type of attempt where you're in maybe 53. Did they say that attempt was 53? Maybe that's not quite no man's territory. But it is on that, that edge of you wanting to be aggressive in those type of scenarios. But Aubrey, if you got 75-plus yard, you got 80-yard range with Brandon Aubrey, you just don't necessarily need to go for it on 4th down at any time. So Kyler Murray out of the pocket again. Not able to get the pass. Was that to McBride? It was to one of the tight ends. McBride, 85. Okay, there we go. It would have been a little short of the first down if it had been a completion. Tough one into double coverage. Rattler, is that a 3rd down? It's a 1st down regardless of what down it was, but Olave picks up the 8 yards. Falling forward for a little bit extra. I don't know if that's quite double coverage, but there's a couple of Seattle defenders there, and Olave that was a non-hospital ball when Olave had a couple of people, or he just got down right away. He's like, I got to get to the... I'm not going to risk it. No yards after the catch anymore for Chris Olave. He's just catching and just, sacrifice, give himself up at that point. Pause. Just to take the tackle. Any positive yards in the air for Olave is totally fine. The route is enough work for him at this point. No more risk. Herbert, 4 for 10. Speaking of Knicks, Herbert not necessarily cooking to start, but having that strong performance from the Broncos secondary would be fun as well too. Maybe it would just speak to how good Danny Dimes has been to start the year, chat, because the expectations today were a little interesting for the Colts. There was some sort of betting football stats math that didn't really favor them today. It was definitely, again, on the field, like it was like, okay, if we're just looking Colts Titans the way they played the first couple of weeks, you got to feel like the Colts are going to be pretty comfortably winning that game. But you have the 0-2 versus the 2-0 home divisional thing was a little like, okay, it does that at least favors the Titans. So I don't know how, far down the path we want to get with some of these analytical trends, but at least there is a couple of things going in their way. So it was maybe a little bit of a trap game for a division opponent there. Maybe Cam Ward in a couple of years, if they're 0-2, maybe he's a little bit more experienced to get that type of upset victory there. But at least early on, there was a couple of moments where, Danny Dimes had to kind of create some stuff with his legs as well too, and he had to kind of scramble for a third down on one of the early drives, and it kind of reminded me as well too, kind of how good he's been as a passer this year, and down the field as well. He's just been accurate, chat, and Darnold had kind of, I guess we're not necessarily smart enough from the X's and O's to know how similar Steichen and O'Connell's offenses are. But, Darnold had kind of that resurgence with his ability to attack down the field being a big reason why his stats were, so good as well too last year, is because he was just really accurate on those type of passes. And, we were looking at Pierce's numbers through the first couple of games. Him just as a receiver individually has been, I think on some of the average stuff, the best down the field receiver in the league. And there's a good third down pass from Herbert right there on the sideline. And, good catch as well too with Hufanga on the ankles of the receiver. So again, some name value back there, but Hufanga's been through some injuries. The 49ers let him and Greenlaw go, and it's not like they've been fantastic this year. So that might have been actually okay, maybe John Lynch and Shanahan know what they're doing, and, they replaced some of those. I guess, they got the linemen in the draft and stuff, but they were definitely focusing on some other parts of their defense as well, too. And they have that other, is it Brown from Penn State or Illinois? I forget what, some Big Ten school. But Jair, he's looked like kind of I don't know if he's still starting, but he seemed like an interesting safety prospect to have in that spot there. But yeah, I guess here, what are Daniel Jones' numbers today? And again, we could specifically look at where he, the charts for how he is attacking the different areas of the field. But, I guess just in general, he's been accurate as well. Oh, Caleb Williams again! Who's the receiver there? That's not a Dunze. Oh, that's Burden. Okay, shout out Burden. Another deep shot from Caleb Williams, chat. Here we go. Let's go. I don't know if it's the reset expectations. Okay, now can Caleb Williams be the 12th best quarterback in the league? Now it's looking like it might be a possibility. But he's been confident today. He's been still aggressive. At least he's been still looking for some of those down the field opportunities. Oh, is it a flea flicker? I just saw Burden run into the end zone. Chat, they had to run the flea flicker. Oh, no. I don't know if that's good or bad then. Hey, yo, that feels like if you run the most, basic sort of Madden trick play, chat, I don't know if that feels like a desperation move for your quarterback or not. Caleb Williams can't sit in the pocket and just make a throw. We got to run the flea flicker. Okay, chat, we still need one more, good sort of creation play from Caleb Williams to, maybe get back to that same hype level we were at there a second ago. The flea flicker, I don't know if it's supposed to or not, but the flea flicker does tone it down a slightly. Shout out to the trick play. Shout out to Ben Johnson. He's in his bag, I guess. But, it's not something that you're necessarily going to be relying on week to week. Maybe the brilliance of, again, Ben Johnson sort of play calling, helping, all that different stuff. That's obviously stuff that you can rely on maybe week to week. But, yeah, the flea flicker itself, we'll just have to see. I don't know if we're being a little too critical there, but would have been nice, of course, for him to, but I guess we have to go. Now we're getting ahead of ourselves. We were looking for momentum in this game. Can he build momentum? That's a momentum building type of play, so that's why it's a good play from Ben Johnson there. Can you get your quarterback to just continue to have positive plays and continue to create stuff for the team? And there's another touchdown, getting the stats going, making sure that, Caleb, game ball type stuff. I don't know, has Caleb Williams ever gotten the game ball, Chet? Hey, yo, I feel like Bryce Young maybe has gotten a game ball or two. Oh, Chet, the deflection interception from the Broncos defense. Quentin Johnson is not to blame for this one. Herbert was rifling that one, and it was deflected across the middle. Is Brandon Jones, is that the safety, Jones? I think that's the Texas guy. He's been good for the team, of course, since his arrival. One of the sneakier, better safeties in the league. And now he continues to add to the stats part of it there. Did Johnson get a hand on it? I don't know. It did. Oh, maybe he could have tracked that down. I guess it's difficult to see from that angle, kind of how close he was to that. The depth perception of that there. But I guess maybe him not getting a hand on it's a problem, chat. But the deflection was a good deflection. Really, of course, centered off course and allowed the defender to bring it in there. So Herbert getting a little momentum on that drive, and unfortunately kind of has it undone there a little bit. But hey, yo, chat, the fourth quarter of the playoff game for the WNBA is about to wrap up here. In the Fever, they definitely put the, I don't remember exactly what the score was there going into the third quarter, but it was not a 14-point game, and they definitely, it might have been a little bit, close to that, but they definitely, again, closed out the performance and did not let the Aces back into the game there. So, yeah, best of 5 for the conference semis, but home court for the Aces in game 1 as the 2 seed. The Fever are going into the series as the 6 seed. So, stealing one on the home court, best of 5, chat. Hey, yo, tough times. I don't know, the MVP, we have to look at the stats and see if that's like a, after the trophy type game, maybe you're, a little bit of a foot off the pedal type of performance. But motivation for the next game to go out there and terrorize. She'll probably, Asia Wilson will probably put up like a 30, 20, and 8, 10 assists as well if the teammates are playing well. So, that, you're not going to get 2 games like that. I guess we don't even know what the stats are, but 2 scores like that from the MVP. Phoenix and Minnesota on the other side. Yeah, this is going to be a good semis for the WNBA. I mean, Minnesota, of course, definitely been staring down their first title this year, but would be a fun storyline for the Aces. There's a bunch of fun potential teams here, and the Mercury, making some trades, making some offseason moves. Alyssa Thomas, maybe the Alyssa Thomas sort of the 2 franchises taking them to because she was the best player on the Sun, MVP status and all the different stuff. And they were the runner-up last year, right? So I think the Liberty were able to win pretty convincingly. But regardless, she had a really awesome performance and was able to carry that team all the way through the playoffs. So she's back powering the Sun again. And I think it was her, she had like a triple-double in the elimination game against the Liberty again. So that would have been, revenge game as well, too, for her in that, just individually in that matchup. But I think Sabale's there, too. So it's a really talented team, of course. It's a lot of talent. I don't know if this is maybe the 4 best roster compilations like that. Because, again, you throw Caitlin Clark just in the name value pool for the Fever. You feel like it might be those 4 sort of star teams. I mean, I know Seattle's got star players as well, too. And, I guess the Liberty. Oh, chat, the Seahawks special teams. Not done. Hey, yo. The Saints special teams might just be a bit of a weak point this year. It is what it is, but the good return sets up the offense on the other side of the field. Are they all the way down to the 30 on that one? And he took that from the goal line, chat. So I'm assuming the same returner that got the punt return because the return touchdown was on a punt return. Oh, was it Young? I don't remember if it was. So I don't know if that's better or worse. 2 guys are getting, good returns off you versus the one guy is making just, a lot of plays, having a really great game on that side of the field. Murray, okay stats to start as they cut to the Cardinals game, but at least it's 0-0. At least it's Mac Jones on their side. Chad, hey, yo, it is what it is. 3rd and 4, 41, their own 41. Cardinal Murray, hey, yo, Chad. Is that a nickname for just the Cardinals quarterback? Whoever it is, they're just Cardinal whatever. I don't know if anybody wants sort of, Pope-associated nickname, priest-associated nicknames, but it is the team-associated nickname, maybe, in that sense. But I guess for using it as a title in that type of way, that it is it's a priest-associated nickname. It is what it is. But maybe Conclave, Ralph Fiennes, so we just kind of associate with the movie, and then maybe it's a little bit tamer. Oh, Darnold with the strike, chat. Oh, he dropped that in the bucket. I don't know who's the receiver there. Torrey Horton. Oh, Horton is I think the guy that got the punt return earlier. So Horton with the punt return touchdown and the receiving touchdown, chat. They said it was the first punt return touchdown for the Seahawks since Tyler Lockett. I guess he's got the number 15. he's a little Tyler Lockett-ish, honestly. I guess, I don't know if we've seen him with the vertical stuff working down the field. You know, they've at least attacked down the field with a strike to him in that type of way. But the impact on the scores, at least, in the multiple facets, Lockett was able to do that early in his career, and Horton is definitely producing there as well. So the special teams sets up the field position, and the special teams guy, receiver, as well with the score. So 28-3, 11 minutes left in the second, and you know what, Chad? Spencer Rattler still looks okay. He still looks good. Spencer Rattler to the Colts, Chad. I don't know. That's what we're saying. But 3rd and 5 for Murray. The Cardinals, I don't know. Do they lead the league in 3rd down attempts? I don't know if their percentage is okay, because they do put the drives together a little bit. Like, they at least, get the ball on the other side of the field. The little inside route to Marv, is that Harrison? Yeah, Chat. I think that's going to move the... Do we call them chains now, Chat? Because you still have sort of the chain situation on the sideline. Oh, Bosa with the thumbs down to the 49ers fans, Chat. Hey, yo. Did they, boo Bosa as he went off the field, or is that just a signal of the injury? I don't know if that's a good thing for Bosa if you don't know which one it is. But he is out of the game with injury, so I would assume it might be related to that. But, yeah, the Cardinals moving the football here, and at least now in field goal range with a chance to add points to the board. I want to say, speaking of Fever Mercury, I think they're up next. Or did I say Fever Mercury? Speaking of Mercury Link, I think they are up next. Yeah, here we go. Let's get that fired up on the ESPN as well to pay attention to that. Alyssa Thomas, Chat, as she can. Thomas versus Collier is going to be pretty crazy. Speaking of, it's the little one-on-one match we start off with as we switch over to the game, and the defense for Collier wins out early on. Thomas not able to get the little hook shot to go, but 2-0 as that game is just starting in the first quarter here. So, this is a full day of sports, Chat, not just NFL Week 3, even though it is a major storyline. So, Dimes today, hey, we're just calling him Dimes now. I think, we're still trying to... Danny Dimes is the nickname. Maybe Indiana Jones is just going to be the one that's popular for the year if they continue to win. But our guy Dimes, I guess now. I guess he's in our guy status, Chat. Hey, yo, it is what it is. Whoa, Anthony Richardson with 4 carries? Well, we should have watched this. We should have paid for this game, not just watched it on the red zone, Chat. Hey, yo, 4 carries and -1 yard. Still somehow doesn't even throw, and just, the stats are negative. It is what it is. But 18 for 25, 222 and a touchdown for our guy Daniel Jones. So I guess, I don't know if that's what his completion percentage was for the first 2 games. Still pretty good. I guess the yards, touchdowns, the efficiency overall. Advanced stats still probably going to be okay. Oh, Chat, the deflection for Prescott off the receiver. Deflected off the receiver's arms. Almost intercepted there. So in field goal range, that would have been tough. Oh, is that Pickens? Pickens actually could have got a catch on the slant. Oh, it's on Jalen Johnson, though, so good play by Jalen Johnson, getting in there and kind of helping break that one up. Oh, Chad, speaking of not watching this game on Red Zone, we just got a little injury report in the bottom scroll. I guess on Red Zone, AO, so not watching this live, but getting the news as it filters in here. Kenny Moore and Pierce both left the game as well, so with the score of it being as it was, you would assume that, guys, if there's any sort of tweaks for any of the major players, that it's just going to be like, okay, we're going to probably not risk it with the way this game is looking. But, Kenny Moore early on, Cam Ward, shout out. We're pro Cam Ward, of course, but that first pick was just, the Kenny Moore was just right there. And right on that little kind of out route, of course, there's just not much sort of, I guess, secondary help offensively, in terms of having to make up for any kind of interception situation like that. So just turnover immediately right away. We did break our streak of scoring drives in the first half of that game. I want to say maybe early in the third quarter, but we got to 19 straight scoring drives to start the regular season. Oh, speaking of flea flicker, Chat, Bo Nix, Chat, they dropped it. It's a little bit of a drop. It's a little bit of an overthrow. I don't know if they're both nice guys. They're both going to take responsibility, but that's a misplay regardless, Chat. Oh, Mims down the sideline. Hey, yo. So the flea flicker working for the, I guess we can't see 2 flea flickers work in a row. I don't know, Chad. It feels like this day's been a lot of the same script. You know, I feel like, was there another pick 6 to start the game for, or in the game around the time of the Indy? I don't remember, but there was a couple of like block punt, block field goals early on in the first couple of drives. There was a couple of block field goals late in the Rams-Eagles game where the Eagles blocked a couple of field goals. Then immediately the Jets blocked the field goals. They cut over to red zone in the Tampa game. And then now, you know, it's like, okay, we're getting the same plays again in the late window when the Bears do the flea flicker and the Broncos do the flea flicker as well too. We got Spencer Rattler chugging it down the field, and the Seahawks guys batting it around, not quite getting an interception. But is that off the? Oh no, that's the safety getting a good deflection on that. I was gonna say, is that off of the receiver? But no, that one's on Rattler, chat. It is what it is. Trying to, you know, loft that one right over the top of the defense. Not quite able to get it to go. But Taylor, chat, today as well too. We should mention 17 for 102 and 3 touchdowns. And again, Dimes has been really good. You know, I don't know if there's like comeback player of the year potential for him. And you know, Steichen's gonna win coach of the year if the Colts continue to play really well. He's the favorite right now, and there will be, of course, some recognition if we win. Yeah, I guess, you know, now we're talking 0-3. Like, it is a decent, you know, lead with, of course, the Houston being 0-3. They would have been the preseason sort of threat. I guess Tennessee's 0-3, so the Jags are 1-2 now at this point, or are they 2-1? Hey, yo, Jacksonville's 2-1, so maybe Jacksonville, you know, is like a sneaky, if they continue to play better and they've accumulated kind of a couple ugly wins early in the season, then their record can look really good. Oh, chat, injury timeout in the Broncos-Chargers game. I didn't see who went down, but hey, yo, hopefully everything's okay over there. But, you know, AFC South is starting to look like it could actually be winnable for the Colts this year. So that kind of, you know, playoff success, that would put us in the playoffs, of course. Just that type of regular season success, if it's a good record as well, too. Again, there's going to have to be some recognition there. And every year, you know, I guess every year, but the last handful of years anyways, there has been at least one skill guy that it seems like, and especially a running back, that is in that mix if their team is playing really well. Because you had McCaffrey 2 years ago for the Niners, and then you had Saquon last year for the Eagles, who were, I think, both on the MVP. Saquon was definitely on the MVP ballot last year, but I'm pretty sure McCaffrey was on 2 years ago as well, too. So those teams are a little bit better status-wise than the Colts right now, because those teams were definitely contending for Super Bowls at the time. In the Colts, again, it's like, are we going to, you know, just continue to be a really good playoff team and maybe win a couple rounds? I don't know. You know, Danny Dimes in an AFC Championship game would be really fun, but that seems like the max ceiling for what this team would be. And I think even Colts fans would admit it still would have to be a little bit of the right matchups in the playoffs. You know, the schedule hasn't necessarily, again, it's definitely been favorable for the team, and we're taking advantage of it. But I guess that being said, you know, Taylor might be the skill guy this year for that conversation. And, you know, I guess if we looked up the fantasy stuff, where that would look, I guess if we look on Pro Football Reference right now, it's going to have just the Thursday night game in the mix. It's not going to have it updated yet, so, you know, Achan's going to have an advantage over some of these other guys. But the Falcons did not look great today, so I don't know, Bijan, if he put up the stats. But, again, team performance-wise, that was not great. Oh, Cook, but, you know, again, he's just going to get neutralized by Josh Allen. That's why we weren't even thinking about it. It's like, you know, Josh Allen is going to be the awards guy. You know, Danny Dime might be, I don't know, a little, I guess, you know, you can't even say miniature Josh Allen, but I guess, again, he's not going to take away from Taylor in the same way that Allen is going to take away from Cook. So you got ETN rush yards-wise at third. You know, I guess, again, the AFC South sort of battle. Henry and then Bijan would be your top 5, at least for right now, for rushing leaders. I don't know if there's anybody, you know, Pollard, Javonte, Jacobs, Barkley, you know, if he just continues to have massive stats games throughout, then I guess, yeah, he could obviously be back in the mix. Mahomes, if he leads the Chiefs in running this year, then maybe he's a running back type in the mix. But if we're, I guess, looking for running back specifically, you know, James Cook, if he just continues to score a ton of touchdowns as well. But Taylor, I think, is well, I guess I can't say he's totally going to outpace him in yards. I guess it does have it updated right now for just Thursday on ESPN as well, too. So once we put Taylor's week into the mix as well, he'll definitely reclaim that number 1 spot in terms of the yards and rushing touchdowns. Well, I guess 3 rushing touchdowns a day. Yeah, he's going to be up on that top list as well, too. So, and again, I don't think there has been a quarterback that has had the 3-week success anyways that Taylor has had so far. Maybe it would have been, I don't know if Herbert would have been in the mix if he was awesome today. Or something, the Eagles continue to win. Stafford, if Stafford had won the game today, then he's in the mix. I mean, the Rams definitely elevated their status today with that game for sure. Continued to. But yeah, I guess Taylor is at least quarter season mark. Chat again. We just don't know what the Colts season is going to look like. If we're comparing it to the Vikings season last year, the Vikings did go 14-3 in the regular season. So I don't know if we're going to win 14 games this year. But are we 11-12 win team? It does look like we could probably be trending in that direction. 10 wins at this point would mean that we're, I can't do math, but 7-4 over the next couple of games. So, 7-4, 7-5, something like that, right? So, we'd be a little bit of a worse team, obviously, than we are now. But at this pace, it does seem like wins-wise, we could be pretty good in that category for the regular season. So I could see Taylor, Offensive Player of the Year anyways, definitely getting those looks as well, too. Because I guess receivers, Neighbors, JSN's getting the looks. I guess if CeeDee Lamb got hurt today, Puka, I don't know if Adams had more yards in that game. We'll have to look and see here. Because that was a game where, again, a sort of, in a way, I don't know if we were going into the game thinking that this was going to be this type of sort of, not necessarily, obviously, a heavyweight matchup. But I don't know if we were saying, okay, is this going to be like the 1 and 2 teams in the NFC? But that's kind of what it felt like in this game. And the Lions, and I guess we're writing off the Packers a little bit as well, too. After the way their defense played in the first couple of games. But I guess just the Eagles being that Super Bowl champion and a team, going toe-to-toe with them directly, I guess, is kind of the measuring stick that we're using anyways. Pause. But Stafford, 19 for 33, 196, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick is okay on the stat lines. Oh, no, Puka was crazy today, chat. 11 for 112, no touchdowns. So Adams had the touchdown, 3 for 56, 8 targets. Puka with 15 targets is good. And Stafford was, again, really awesome through the first couple of weeks as well, too. So I think we all still trust Stafford for the regular season. And again, the Eagles special teams just made some great plays. They blocked a couple of field goals, score-wise, and they returned that touchdown back late as well, too. So that pushes the spread, a little bit from what initially it should have been. But if they hit a couple of those field goals, of course, they're arguing that they could win again. And that's twice that they've gone toe-to-toe with the Eagles. And, the Eagles are definitely due for a performance where, they're definitely due for a loss as well, too. I think they've lost 19 of their last 20. So just in terms of, do they go out and put up a stinker game? Like, that's definitely not surprising if it happens really soon. And it seemed like maybe the first half was trending in that direction. But the way it really, and Saquon's stats, 46 yards is not great, but at least they still gave him the carries, 18. So when the offense functionally, it was really those 3 guys, and Smith had a great day as well too. Almost the same amount of targets as AJ Brown, but in a couple of those last drives, just the one-on-one, like, screw it, AJ Brown, throw it to him, and Hurts, accurate on those one-on-one passes and giving Brown an opportunity to make plays. And he had that crazy one where he just stiff arms the defender right into the ground and takes off for the first down. And one of the best, again, great highlight day just in general. That reception, there was a reception that was called back in the Bucs game by Ibuka that immediately would have, the AJ Brown, the physicality of that play. I think it might be reception of the year. I don't know if there's a sideline tiptoe one that I'm missing that I'm not thinking of, but Ibuka would have just immediately have had the best reception of the year if they would have counted the one that they're saying he got out of bounds. But the way he last second dragged his foot, it did seem like there was a possibility that he would have had the catch there. And the Bucs, of course, end up winning the game. But it, again, from the highlight standpoint, was pretty impressive. But the Rams, maybe again you want to be in a spot where it's like, is Stafford the only question mark that we have? Because Williams was a good day as well too, 20 for 94. Is pretty good. It's not like elite, but still pretty good enough to keep that balance that you need for what you could assume Stafford could go out there and lead an offense. But he had the pick. He had a couple of more turnover type passes as well too, and still a guy that, like we're saying again, you just trust late in games and in playoff scenarios, even if he is making mistakes in the course of those games, I guess. But again, a little up and down is something, and I guess maybe more important for Hurts as well. Definitely outplayed him in terms of the stats with not throwing any interception and having the 3 touchdowns as well too. But like you're saying, eye test wise, it does seem like again, Hurts was the better quarterback in the game, and the Rams pass rush versus the Eagles pass rush, like there's some equal circumstances there for both of the guys. Kind of similar. For as good as the Eagles skill guys are, it's not like Stafford's lacking in that category as well too. Again, like with Puka and with Adams, I don't know. Again, with the game cutting in and out to the red zone, I don't know if some of these targets were drops for Adams, but some of the ones that they did cut to, obviously the plays that he was making were really good. And if he's just that number 2 guy and Puka's, I guess, a crazy number 1 guy like this, then obviously like he is, then that's still a really functional offense. I think Smith is still probably a better number 2 receiver than Adams at this point. But again, it's not necessarily a deficit of the team and an excuse for why Stafford might be playing bad. But, Hurts outplaying a guy that, again, Stafford is still probably a top 10-ish quarterback in the league. I guess if we actually sat down into the rankings, he might be more comfortably top 10 than we're giving him credit for right now. I'm just, giving benefit of the doubt to other guys as well, too. Hey, yo, Chad, who's Goodell talking to on the... Do we have to go back? I guess we're watching Red Zone Live. Hey, yo. I don't know if Goodell... I don't know what the... You have to go to Goodell's Facebook. I don't know what the relationship status is for Goodell at this point. Chad, I don't know if it doesn't matter. I don't know. Hey, yo. What game was he even at? Is he at that Bears-Cowboys game? I guess were they playing in Dallas? That would make sense. I don't know if... is he in Jerry Jones' suite, chat? Hey, yo. But, again, Hurts, to continue to give him credit, as it seems like there is still and, again, I think in some of the consensus quarterback rating stuff, it's not like he wasn't in that top 5 type mix. But there's just a reluctancy to it that it feels like if he continues to prove himself, the reluctancy, can go away, as he's already a champion as well too. But maybe we also have to start changing the Super Bowl hangover to the team just wins chaotic games, because that's what the Chiefs were last year as well too, in that 15-2 regular season record, and did end up, of course, working their way back into the Super Bowl. So it's not like it didn't translate into playoff success, them being a quote unquote good regular season team. But just in terms of them being a 15-2 team, I felt like they were a little bit maybe not quite there. And again, we're just really historically lucky in 1-score games. I think was it like 11-0. So there was definitely going to be correction there at the standpoint. But again, that was the year off of them getting that Super Bowl. So to the the Eagles, I guess, being the team that wins it this past season, maybe the Super Bowl hangover is, yes, they're still a good regular season team. Maybe it even means that they're going to be like in an NFC Championship game as well too. But maybe the little bit, maybe the level of play that they're playing at is the level of play, and it's not just like, okay, they're gonna unlock that sort of Eagles team to pass. And again, still a really good team, still a team that's top end of the NFC. With the way the Packers, like we're saying, played today, the Eagles have definitely reclaimed that top sort of power ranking spot. If the Packers were just sort of the new blood in the mix, but but again, them actually, like we know, repeating and winning a Super Bowl is just difficult in general. But them being sort of a little bit more susceptible, there's some close games, and I think people are kind of in like, hey, the Eagles offense is maybe not great. So I'm kind of balancing like, hey, we're still saying like, obviously I still believe in the Eagles offense, and I still believe in Hurts, and I still believe in the skill guys and all that different stuff. But it's just that difficulty factor of actually just running back that entire Super Bowl run and winning that, all those final games. Of course, is just a historically difficult thing to do. But yeah, again, maybe regular season wise, of course, obviously starting off 3-0 as well. But weird game versus the Cowboys to have the mid game. Weather delay is not the weirdest thing in the world, but still just weird pace, flow of the game. Thursday night, start the season on a, I guess a virtual sort of short week. But then to have this Rams game go down to where at least you're still making plays at the end of the game and blocking those field goals, but still, again, just chaotic ways to close out the victories. And the Chiefs had the game last year against the Broncos where they were a little bit later in the season, but where they were blocking the field goals. And it's like, okay, they did everything to lose this game, but just made the play at the end of the game to win it, and it goes on the record as what it is. But like we're saying, the Packers still have to be in the mix at the top of the NFC. The Lions, top 5 NFC team, however you want to rank it, just in terms of them being competitive, even if that Packers game, again, was pretty dominant for Green Bay. But the Rams, of course, were in the mix, but for them to continue to show that they go toe-to-toe with Philly in this type of way, and I guess, I don't know, we'll double check here. Do they play the Lions and the Packers? Because that'd be interesting to see. Maybe they are a little matchup dependent in that type of way, because I could see the Packers secondary maybe flying around a little bit better against. If Stafford's a little bit more inconsistent right now, I could see it maybe with a couple more turnovers than what the Eagles had. Even though, again, they were able to win. But Colts up next, chat. Ayo. We'll see if the Colts are able to keep the win streak alive. Niners-Ravens would be another sort of competitive team game. Super Bowl contending team. So the Lions, NFC matchup, Lions in Week 15. So they don't play the Packers. That's just a random schedule game. They've got AFC South, NFC South as the two divisions that they're playing. And then, Lions and Ravens would be the random games in the mix. And the Browns is the preseason game, preseason 3. So yeah, just those teams that we mentioned as the random games in the schedule. I guess it could have been maybe a Packers game there, but I guess you probably got to go one random NFC and one random AFC would be the guess. But I feel like they played the Ravens good last time as well too, so they could match up good against them. And Stafford just elevating against some of these good teams is obviously something that we're definitely counting on, like we're saying, as well. But if they do make those field goals, again, there is a case that they are maybe the best team in the NFC, because like we're saying, and I know we're, again, giving the Eagles all the credit in the world for winning as well. But I guess, like we're saying, there is a little bit of a, the Super Bowl hangover is just on a little bit of a different effect right now. But the Rams were toe-to-toe with them pretty much I guess not even toe-to-toe with them pretty much the entire game, winning and kind of the better team the entire game. And like we're saying, that's now, at least of this last stretch of dominance that the Eagles have had in winning all these games, it's definitely the most competitive, consistently that a team has played them in these two really close games now. And that last one being a playoff game, the added importance of that, them stepping up in the moment. And then just maybe these games going forward, we knowing that they're competitive, there's a little bit of a playoff type feel, even if it is early in the regular season. And, it's always going to be difficult to look back at a Week 3 game and be like, okay, how much can we take away from a Week 3 game if we're previewing something for earlier in the season, but or later in the season, playoff timeline type stuff. But again, the Rams are now, I think, in the top tier, and I think the NFC is more, again, a tier versus if it was just the Packers going out and looking like the most dominant team, because their offense was scoring, their defense was shutting teams down, and their defense, in a way, did hold the Browns today as well too. It's not like the Browns offense put up a ton of points, but they kind of, win these not win these low scoring games, but these kind of low scoring, ugly games are the games that they're trying to find themselves in. Defensively, can they get a couple stops at the end? And then Flacco put together a couple drives, and he did get him into field goal range in the end of the game. But the Packers offense, looking a little bit more dysfunctional than it has obviously in the past couple of weeks, does even the playing field a little bit from where we thought that they were maybe ascending to earlier on. And, again, are they going to be, they're going to have a couple of off games throughout the course of the season. Younger team as well too, so maybe they're a little bit more susceptible to that type of stuff. Just some of these random sort of inconsistent performances, and especially once everybody starts talking them up as well too, maybe they start get into their head positive factor of that is a little bit more, intense than some of the more veteran teams knowing how to overlook some of that stuff. But yeah, I think, the Rams offense versus the Browns defense, Stafford versus Love, it's an interesting comparison for Stafford's decision making against the type of pressure and his ability to get it out quickly, because I think, we were talking about Love being kind of a little bit more, obviously, a couple weeks ago, old school. It's like, right now the mobility stuff is in such focus, and the ability to scramble and create all this stuff outside the pocket, not only create stuff outside the pocket, but also be, almost it's almost the fantasy element of it is in real life, where it's like, okay, if my quarterback is not running, then, if he's not just a second running back in a way and not that type of threat to pick up a first down scrambling on 3rd and 6. And Bo Nix down the field, Cortland Sutton wide open, chat. So if they knock in the extra point here, we got 10-7 as the first half winds down, 38 seconds. That's a close one, chat. They could have gone into halftime feeling bad. Now all of a sudden momentum turns. I guess you just got to stop the Chargers from a crazy... The Chargers really set themselves up for a field goal type drive or even a touchdown is definitely something that the Broncos would do to wipe away the momentum of this play. But finally, the Sean Payton sort of play design feels like it really, opened some stuff up there for the Broncos. The run, the fake run, fake pitch, giving Sutton time to work across the field there. Bo Nix accurate on the downfield strike. And again, he was kind of accurate on that one earlier as well, too. It's just a little right. We got to go back and check the replay on like the elbow extension of Marvin Mims there. But it really did feel like, again, that was kind of just a little bit of both out of reach and could have been caught. So yeah, we'll like we're saying, we'll just, I guess, chalk it up to bad play. But the aggressiveness hopefully now starting to pay off as well too as they work into the season. So, is week 3 the reminder of the give it time week? I think, again, for some guys like, oh, Caleb Williams, are we starting blank slate every year? Maybe, again, new expectations every year. I don't know. Again, not they always trend down. Maybe they trend up as well too. Obviously, either way is a possibility. But, Mac Jones right now on San Francisco, he's got stock trending up with the way that he is, the way that he can produce in the Shanahan offense, the way all these guys can. But with it's like, okay, the flashes, the start to seeing maybe what could be in some of these offenses, and like we're saying, one's in new systems, new coaches. Like maybe week 3 is just, okay, reminder that sometimes things need to take time. Because, again, the Bears is 14-14 right now, 7 minutes left in the second half, or second quarter. They're, I guess, at 0-2, they're really, if the Cowboys 1-1 are looking like, hey, we're not necessarily looking to go 1-2, but 0-2 is a different level of desperation. They're going to be locked in later in the, I guess, for Bears locked in, we'll see how that goes, but, they're going to at least attempt to be locked in later in the game to try to put a win on the board. The first win for Ben Johnson in his head coaching career as well too, trying to compete for that. And I guess chat, they're in Chicago. I think I said it was in Dallas earlier. It is what it is. But the 2nd and 9 run, nothing. So it's going to set up a 3rd and long for Caleb Williams. So here we go. Herbert, 32 seconds left. He's definitely got time to, chat. And the throw into the flats is incomplete. Okay, I not necessarily need to go perfect on every play with 32 seconds left, but you're getting there, and they do have 2 timeouts. But Herbert's a good down-the-field strike away from all of a sudden they just picked up like 26 yards on the next play. But, yeah, again, for Love, I think this was a tough game for maybe the MVP stuff for Love, because it did feel like he was trending that direction. And DeAndre Swift now, chat, takes off on the screen pass. So 6 minutes in the second quarter, the Bears move the ball across opponent territory now. I don't know if they're quite in the red zone yet. And again, I don't know if we're, again, just focusing too much on Caleb. That's the kind of classic old school play where it's like, the only positive plays that they make are the screens and that different type of stuff. But again, if you have momentum, if you've made a couple of good throws, even if it's, one's off a flea flicker, now one's off a running back screen, you can kind of see the swagger that he has a little bit, chap. Like, this has to be, and, this has to be his best stat line as well, too. I mean, Ben Johnson's plays are just working right now. Shout out to the Cowboys defense. Chet, the Bears are feeling good all of a sudden. Hey, yo, you got the little end around sweep that picks up the first down. But probably the best stats half line. Stats half line? Hey, yo, what is that, Chet? The best stat line halftime? I don't even know what the word is now. The best stats halftime for best stats half. Best stats line half, and there we go, Chet. Hey, yo, it is what it is. I got the best stats line half for Caleb Williams of his career so far, that I would assume. But again, this is probably the most swagger that I've seen him have just in a stretch of football since being in the NFL. He's got a little pep to his step, Chet. You can see it, and some guys do wear the emotion on their face. I don't know if that's, and it's not, you don't always want to say it's necessarily indicative of hey, pause it. I don't have to pause that word there with the way we pronounced it. It's necessarily indicative of the way that they're going to play on the next play. But with the way, again, maybe Caleb Williams has been playing, it's like, okay, the look and the stats do seem to be matching up, and there's just a general sort of lack of confidence has been very present. So the fact that he does seem to, again, maybe hey, yo, chat. Speaking of, maybe we have to stop with the compliments. He just threw that one right in the dirt. Hey, yo, speaking of screen passes, they tried to call another one, and that one didn't go well. So here we go, chat. A little bit of a moment. This is a good drive. They're going to be able to, if they make a field goal, put up points here. We're already 3rd and 12. We're already chalking it up as a miss. But, yeah, Chet, see a very expressive disappointment on that pass from Caleb Williams. You don't want to hopefully it's a little bit different now that, again, he's made some good plays. 3rd and 10 at the 12. Again, you just don't want to have a turnover or something really bad here where now all of a sudden, they've trusted you to make a play, given up a score, thrown into the end zone. Oh! It's a good throw. Odunze one-on-one. The defender definitely impacts that catch attempt, trying to tackle Odunze in the air as he makes that as he tries to make that catch. But good aggressive throw by Caleb Williams, not necessarily putting it in danger, giving Odunze a chance. And again, Odunze is a high upside talent. He is going to be able to make those catches quite often. So you want to be able to give him those opportunities as well. And you have the chance to take the field goal, take the lead here in the half, chat. Yeah, again, that was a moment there where if okay, we've made a negative play, how do we just put that behind us and go out and make a positive throw the next time? And just continue to play well in this half, continue to get that momentum, and give your defense a chance to get the stop, and they can even get the ball back as well too, and make spicy plays. But I guess again, to continue with what we were saying about Jordan Love, and I feel like Lamar as well too, like literally been in a division with the Cleveland Browns, so I feel like you could probably have a tough game against Cleveland and Myles Garrett and still win the MVP. Like here, let's double check. What Lamar did Lamar have a bad game against Cleveland when he won the MVP? Chad, is it possible? Because Lamar's won a couple. Josh Allen won last year. So do we want to go back to back? I feel like Josh Allen again. He's got the multiple time MVP type game. Hey, yo, we're looking at Allen's college stats. Shout out. It would not be surprising for Josh Allen's career for him to have 2 MVPs or such on the resume. But does he go pause back to back with the MVP? So if we're, I guess, more so, or, Mahomes, I guess, going into the season as well, too. It's, I guess he's going to win the MVP this year. But if we were looking for new guy MVPs, of course, Jordan Love was right at the top of the list if the Packers are just awesome in the regular season. But this was a tough game. And he had the interception late as well, too. That was costly. And, again, I think just the individual creation that he kind of is able to display as a quarterback, and what is the level that, again, we're judging these quarterbacks on. He's still clearly a guy that has produced in the playoffs. He's even a guy that's like a really good sort of end of the season quarterback as well too, where it feels like late, kind of the November, December stats for him might be better than some of the other months. And again, it's proven that he can play well in the playoffs. So it would not be surprising he puts together 3 or 4 good playoff games in a row, and all of a sudden Jordan Love's winning a Super Bowl. But for him to ascend past some of these other guys for MVP for this year, this would have been a game, a late winning drive, even an ugly situation where he makes a couple of plays and they're able to win the game. And, again, defense making a stop, I guess. They let the Browns offense, get into field goal range. Like, that's always it's definitely a possible way to look at it as well too. But here, wait, was that so 2019? I guess they did lose to Cleveland. Chat Lamar game 4, 25-40, went 24 for 34, 247, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. So wait a second, let's see. Did Jordan Love have a lot of touchdowns? Because at least you'd go back at Lamar and be like, okay, a lot of touchdowns this year. Maybe one of the only games that he threw picks in as well too. So finished the season with 6 interceptions. So at least if Love, and again later in the year he'll have like an 8-game stretch. It's like, wait a second, Jordan Love hasn't thrown an interception for the entire last half of the season. Feels like that's just the cycle of his stats at this point. So 1-1 is a little tough, and again 183 is definitely a little bit lower. I don't know, 25-40. Maybe Lamar had a couple of costly plays in this one instead of just the one at the end, and then the divisional opponent, a chance to at least get revenge on a team that you lose to is a little bit different as well too than just like a one-off bad game scenario, because he gets 238 and 3 touchdowns in the week 16 game that they play in 2019. And then wait, did Lamar win 2 MVPs back to back? I think he had a couple of years between them. Yeah, wait a second. So yeah, 23 was the other MVP that he won here. Let's double check his performances against Cleveland Browns. In that one, 28-3 victory for Lamar, 15 for 19, 186 and 2 touchdowns. So, similar stat line to Jordan Love, except he was efficient and didn't throw picks. The yardage, low yardage and low touchdowns is actually probably a good thing because they were cruising in this game. And then, they lost 31-33. So I remember this game, dramatic game. Lamar did have, 2 picks in this game, 223 and a touchdown. I guess now that I'm looking at it. So, again, a little bit more dynamic, I guess. 3 for 23, not necessarily, or 8 for 41, I guess. That's the sack total. 8 for 41, so was carrying the ball a little bit more, but didn't get a rushing touchdown. And again, was still able to win the MVP. So I guess Jordan Love can win the MVP and have a bad game against Cleveland. But I guess maybe the bigger picture, if we have to do the individual quarterback ranking type conversation, the lack of mobility thing was a little bit of and again, Cleveland, that defense, Myles Garrett, again, Lamar actually is a guy that can escape those type of pressures and, is literally maybe one of the best in NFL history at it. But the Browns, of course, are an elite pass rush and elite at getting to the quarterback and disrupting his game. So, again, how much can we criticize Jordan Love for a bad performance against that? But it was one of those things where, again, from an award standpoint, I could see him getting there above those guys, the voters, looking at his season above some of the other seasons. But just mentally, I still think that, obviously Josh Allen, obviously Lamar, he even still, Mahomes just kind of is in his own category at this point we still believe in him, but he's not performing like it. So I don't know where we rank him at. But, we kind of just have him separated off in his, just in his own thing. But, I guess, like we're comparing him a little bit to Herbert based on some of the arm talent stuff, just in their, ability to just kind of sit in the pocket. But for Herbert, it is a little bit more like he's willing to sit in the pocket and just get taken, just take damage sitting in which is behind maybe some iffy offensive lines. But he is a little bit more mobile than Love as well, too. So even like a guy like Hurts. But that becomes kind of a Stafford thing, and then to compare Love to Stafford in that way, and I guess to circle this way back into a sort of bigger picture NFC conversation, and this is why, of course, Stafford is good now, why he's some of the best of all time. It's, of course, a trade of the best of all time, but just Stafford making those quick decisions against pressure. And, again, maybe he's a little iffier right now. Oh, and they're just rerunning that Tyrod Taylor pick six to, and not necessarily end the game, but later in the game. That was definitely a crushing play. And it was a great play by Dean as well, too, on the comeback route. Pause. Wilson definitely created some good separation there. I don't know if we go timing, maybe, Tyrod probably throws that, obviously a little bit too late. He allows Dean to break and run back, get the interception on it. But good recovery by Dean, because again, like we're saying, Wilson did get good separation on that route. Hey, yo. But one of the best, just guys swooping in type interceptions that you'll see, and was able to build up some speed getting for the touchdown run there. But yeah, again, Stafford is just a little bit better in that element right now than I think Love is. And Daniels would be another one as well, too. That would, of course, with the pressure stuff, but with the athleticism and his ability to create outside of the pocket, would be a guy that I would just personally be more comfortable building a franchise around because of that element than a guy like Jordan Love. And again, we're just talking about, and I guess, I've named a couple at this point. I don't know if like Stroud, I would still hold out hope over Love or whatever, but there's still like 7 or 8, and again, those are all guys that could win the MVP of the league. So Love is still in a particular category for the quarterbacks as well too. He's definitely ascending to be one of the best ones in the league. But again, for the NFC competition, it was just a little bit of an interesting one. That Eagles sort of specific, and if they're facing those good pass rushes in the playoffs, just how is it able to affect those quarterbacks? And I feel like Love is one that has good numbers against pressure as well too. We'd have to go double check that. But today was a little bit brutal in that aspect. But again, Jacobs was not able to really get going as well too. So I think they were saying that the Browns defense is #1 overall. I guess even going into the game, that over the way the Packers defenses looked early on is pretty impressive. So again, both played really well. Low scoring game, ugly stats game. Judkins was kind of probably the one bright spot in the game. 18 for 94 and a touchdown. Long of 38 for the day. He did have, I guess, a lot of runs that were not great, but was able to get a few, I think, impactful first downs in this one as well, too. Ooh, and Njoku with a nice stats game, 5 for 40 in this one. Leading all guys for the Browns anyways. Again, not a lot of yards to go around. But Fanning, 3 for 25. Fanning, But Harold Fannin was a guy that was getting a lot of love, seemed like getting a lot of targets as well, too. But I guess Njoku did lead in targets as well, with 7 targets for the day. Golden for Green Bay seemed like they were focused on getting him involved in the offense. And who knows, maybe that's part of the reason that maybe some of the timing stuff was off. There could be a lot of factors into it outside of just, new stuff, and you're playing against a great defense. Could be a difficult combination for sure. But yeah, tough game. So I guess, again, it's not a write-off game. It's the Browns. We know it's ugly. We know they're not playing that specific defense in the playoffs, probably. I guess Browns Super Bowl run, can we write it off at this point? I don't know. But just the last type of separating factor game you need, I guess, for us mentally, is still something that we need from Jordan Love. Or we just need to go back and watch, the playoff game that he had and remember how good he was there too. Because I guess he's still 4th, chat. You still have Allen and Lamar, like we're saying, the 1 and 2. Herbert and Jordan Love, the guys we were comparing, are the next 2 guys. Daniels, MVP-wise, is, of course, a little bit knocked down by the fact that he missed today's game. So there's going to be some stat stuff there that hurts. And then you would have Stafford next as well, too. So, again, they're 2-1. Today was their first loss. Stafford over Hurts, even though Hurts got the win, is a little bit crazy, chat. We should have just known that right away by looking at the list of names and be where Hurts. Hurts honestly should be 3. Again, the stats were not great in that Chiefs game, and I know maybe people are hating on the tush push right now as well too. So I don't know if people want to award the tush push is honestly it. But Baker versus Love does become a little bit of an interesting battle, and I think Love, again, there's like a physical profile that Love has. I don't know if it's a little bit more. I don't want to prototypical, yes. Maybe it's just a little bit more infatuating. I don't know if that's the right word to use there. But, Baker, of course, a little bit more unorthodox build. I don't know if he has necessarily like the cannon arm, but can still, make the throws in all the spots of the field. And has that gutsy 4th quarter just ability to pull out these wins. And not say, again, that Love doesn't have that. But that would be a tough NFC quarterback conversation as well, too. So I don't know if we're overreacting to one loss against the best defense in the league. But Baker, and maybe we have to start looking at the fact that, Tampa Bay can't play a clean game as well, too. And maybe they haven't played a clean game against some okay teams because, again, the Jets might not be, super great. Tyrod Taylor is the backup. We saw the way the Falcons play today. If we're doing the football math, now all of a sudden the Falcons aren't that great. The Vikings with McCarthy was still questionable about what that matchup is, at least at that point in the season as well, too. And, we know the way the Vikings look today. And I'm trying to remember, did Tampa Who did Tampa play in week 1? Was that the Atlanta game in week 1? And then, wait a second. So why am I not remembering the third game in the mix here? Oh, Houston. Monday night versus Houston. Yeah, so Houston doesn't look good as well, too. So they've won 3 kind of real, tough games. Like, literally, the go-ahead score in the last minute of the game against 3 teams now that through 3 weeks were not necessarily, like, super high on any of these 3 teams. But regardless, there is a gutsiness to Baker Mayfield, even if it's against some bad teams. He's getting these wins. He's had the clutchness. And as the season plays out, that could be a thing that proves, again, Jordan Love against the best defense in the league struggled versus Baker against some kind of okay teams. It's like, yeah, maybe, taking a little bit to get these wins. And, they lost Mike Evans today. And there's going to be some excuses to go for why these games might be close. And they're going to be focused more on the fact that I guess Baker's getting the wins more so than the teams that they're playing. And you go, like Eagles, see, that'll be a real prove-it game for both these teams. Again, Eagles, of course, are the champion team that everybody's trying to take the belt from this year. But that'll be a real good gauge because Tampa's also played them well in the playoffs, too. So, and there we go. Another wide open guy. Caleb Williams strike down the middle of the field. 18 for 14 for 202 before that throw. I don't know if they'll update the stats, but he is, or what they'll update to here. 230 plus. Maybe he gets another touchdown on the board here. 3 timeouts, chat, as they've got 30 seconds left in the half and a chance to continue to extend the lead. But there we go, chat. You got to say he cooked in that half. I guess we got to give him a chance to not make a mistake here before halftime. Just one final play to make sure to let the Bears fans be nervous as we end the game, or end the half, because Cowboys could still get a pick and not necessarily take the lead as well too. But yeah, Eagles will be a tough game. They get the Lions, of course, a little bit later on. Bills will be a good sort of see where they're at, realistically for Tampa as well too. So again, I think regular season maybe Green Bay still does, of course, get more wins than Tampa, and that's why Jordan Love would be up there in the MVP stuff over Baker as well. And once you go Goff, Kyler, I think that would be the tier of guys. I don't know if there's anybody else that I would really get hot takey. Again, it's a shorter list. We're not, trying to bump Jordan Love down too much. I guess Burrow, chat, we gotta say Burrow when he's healthy. He's in this mix. I don't know necessarily for MVP voting. Oh, Komet in the end zone, also wide open. So this game is gonna, a continued red flag for the Cowboys secondary. Thankfully there's just gaping holes for Caleb Williams to, whoa, it is what it is. But all kinds of space for him to get the momentum that we're talking about, get the stats, make the good plays. Basically a practice preseason game for Caleb Williams here. Literally nobody within 15 yards of Cole Kmet. Either way, the linebackers just minding their own business. We've got, is that a pick 6? Herbert, chat? Hey, yo. So Love might leap Herbert in the MVP voting, and they both are going to lose. And Daniels is not even going to play. He's going to be third in MVP voting. Hurts. We got to update this to Hurts, chat. Herbert and Love can't both lose. Hurts is going to be 3-0. And maybe Jordan Davis is third in MVP voting. I don't know. Again, we're not even talking about, we just made the case for our guy, Jonathan Taylor. Now we're not even talking about him. 150-1. I get this is him actually winning versus, him being on the ballot. Oh, chat, wait a second. It's Dobbins running it in. Ayo, I'm an idiot. I just see a guy taking off down the sideline. I think it's, for some reason now, Herbert throwing pick 6s. But that's the second play off of the last play. So Dobbins making a couple of plays, ayo, to power the Broncos for the score and the lead in an important AFC South game as well, too. So, yeah, that's Dobbins stepping out of bounds on that previous run up the sideline. He just, I guess, a couple times. Just keep running, though, chat. Hey, yo, that's how it works. But, yeah, at least get Taylor's odds up. I guess we could bet, you can cash out if his odds move up. So, bet Taylor now. All these guys, Parsons, maybe MVP. I don't know. He'd really have to continue to pile on the sacks. But Jefferson, Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Derrick Henry, Drake May, Penix, no. Barkley, Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, Caleb Williams, Rodgers, Daniel Jones at 50-1 has 3 times the odds of, Taylor with 3 times the odds of Daniel Jones, his own teammate, is a little bit crazy. Prescott, Goff. If the Cowboys pull together a win streak, of course there is some I think some Prescott stuff that could start to emerge as part of the conversation. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, the takeaway, of course, is the how good the Browns defense was and their awesome play today. And Myles Garrett, continued, I guess, Defensive Player of the Year. Talk half a sack. I guess Malik Collins with a sack and a half today as well. Huntington with a half. And Graham Chat getting a half a sack in the mix. Alex Wright. So 5 on Love total for the day is, of course, pretty successful. And the turnover in the mix as well, too. But we've got basically everything in halftime. I guess two of the 4 technically. Broncos, like we're saying, just now working their way out of the second half. Or halftime, second half. Now just starting. And there's 17 seconds left in this Cowboys-Bears first half. Dak is looking down the field. He's making sure to run all the time off the clock on the one play. He does find his tight end in near the sideline, but he's inbounds. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to stop the clock, and they're just going to go into halftime down 10. So Caleb Williams, chat, 24 points in the first half, a 10-point lead. I mean, the team success alone would be enough for us to be like, okay, thankfully the Bears had a good day, and maybe that means something for Caleb Williams. But also Caleb Williams has had a good day. He's been finding the right guys. They've been able to some yards after the catch. 10 for 16, I guess, is not the best completion percentage type stuff. But 239 and 3 touchdowns, chat. That's what we're looking for. And it's been a lot of him in the pocket, again, just hitting the open guy down the field as well, too. So that's been even more encouraging. Dak, 16 for 19 for 115 and a touchdown. The stats are going to favor him for sure. So keep that, the PR up for our guy Dak, I guess, is still in play as well, too. But we'll take a quick break, chat, while these teams are in half, and then get back while we follow this Broncos-Chargers game while these teams are in halftime. And the second half of these games, more, I guess, early slate reactions as well, too. On the other side of the break, chat. Don't go anywhere. Second half up next. Okay, chat, we definitely hit the camera. We went to use the bathroom. Okay, wait, we're going to have to readjust here real quick. Let's see if we can move it with the foot. Oh, chat! Hey, yo, I think... Okay. I think we're back in. Obviously, we have to display the Wembanyama Lonnie Walker jersey very proudly. So, make sure the camera gets a good angle there. But, yeah, halftime, of course, underway. So, we were mentioning Baker a little bit, talking about Jordan Love. We did mention, of course, like we were saying, it is, of course, we'll see if it's a red flag or if it's a good thing. Is it good or bad whether or not these games are close? Is this like a Peyton Manning situation? But I guess playoff success, there was always something there. So I know, of course, you throw Peyton Manning, Baker around, maybe at this point, the only correlation that they have is the number one pick. Respectfully for Baker, it's just, obviously Manning's legacy is one of the best legacies that a quarterback could have at this point. But Manning was one of those guys. Regular season, there was a lot of these moments, a lot of the fourth quarter comebacks, a lot of the close games, dramatic finishes, a lot of in the fourth quarters and second halves. It felt the 2-minute offense scenarios. It really felt like they would take a step up, and Manning in command. Be like, oh man, the clutchness, the greatness, and all those things are absolutely true. But playoff time, there was a couple times maybe results wouldn't turn out quite the same thing. So I don't know if Tampa is in that same scenario. I would say, again, even those Colts, and maybe it's just the overall and Manning's numbers were better. Again, he's one of the elite stats guys as well as, again, elite quarterbacks as well. But the Colts were maybe year to year at, more consistently at, they were a better contender than what Tampa Bay is right now. If Tampa Bay was this level of contender every year with Baker for like a decade, or 15 years, the way the Colts were with Manning, it would be a little bit of a notch down than, from a contender standpoint in the odds than what the Colts were back in those days. But again, a team that we would not be shocked if was a competitive NFC team this year. There's a veteran status and a balance that they have compared to some of these other teams as well. And Baker is in that kind of peak of his powers years, best years of his career age-wise, and again, figuring it out with the system and seeming like he can sort of be a guy that steps up in the moment, offensively caring a little bit more than just sort of the game plan stuff as well too. But again, we'll see how questionable some of this stuff is as well. And I guess the Jets making a push. It wasn't necessarily the fourth quarter comeback was the late them having to overcome the fact that they blocked field goal and returned it for a touchdown. But still, again, just in these sort, so that's not the Peyton Manning. The Peyton Manning is the before sort of the having to make up a bigger deficit from over the course of the game. But just, I guess, the fourth quarter comeback scenario is what we'll associate it to as the Colts fan. But yeah, again, we'll something to watch it later in the season. But Mbuka having to step up as that number one, because like we mentioned, Mike Evans did get hurt in the game. And Mbuka, I guess you could say here, I guess let's look at the stats through 2 games. Is Mbuka actually leading the team in some of the stuff? Or is, wait, how do we spell this guy's name, chat? Hey, yo, shout out. It's just because he's Ohio State. And, we're not looking at the Ohio State roster and seeing we're just hearing the names announced when they destroy the team. But through the first couple of games, yeah, good performance against the Falcons, 4 for 67, two touchdowns. We're not looking at touchdowns. We're just looking at catches and yards. Hey, yo, basic stats, chat. The scores obviously don't matter. But, you could be Marvin Harrison Jr., chat. I have like 12 touchdowns your rookie year. It's like, wait a second, like 500 yards? What happened there? But, oh, chat, what's this? We've got, is that Connor, chat? They've got the cart out. They've got the crowd gathered around like it's, one of those bad lower leg injuries. Of course, Connor, one of the, biggest fighters in the NFL, chat. Hey, yo. Of course, his backstory is really incredible with what he's had to go through. So, and now you don't want to add to that. Hey, yo, you just want, you want it to be backstory, I guess, if it's story at all. But, hey, yo. So, hopefully he's able, and, with where he's at in his career as well, too. You don't want to start saying stuff. So hopefully that man's just able to get back to his goals, chat. Hey, yo, that's always the plan for any of these players. But again, for Mbuka, I guess, if we have to pivot back to the healthy, what else is going on? Like, he had to step up in a different type of way, at least functionally in the offense, because of the fact that they lost their other major receiver. And you know, I feel like the upside has definitely been there for him to be a major stats guy this year. But if he was actually their number one, there is something to that. I think he is a little bit more, and again, not being the number one X's and O's guy over here, but I do wonder if he is a little bit more versatile in the route tree than Mike Evans. And I don't know if we're not giving Mike Evans enough credit for being versatile in the route tree. And I think his ability to, you know, probably break off some of the stuff down the field as well too, and just to win contested catches as well, like, is what makes him so incredible. And he is just a great guy who can be a number one receiver. But I think in Buka, there is a little bit more that can happen there, and he is also just as good at winning the down the field type throws, even if it's not the contested catches. And I think it works with the way Baker is playing right now, because he was, and again, this is why he is getting some of that MVP love, even if it's not, you know, okay, they're not playing great through the first 3 quarters. So the games are, you know, not playing, you know, I guess great 4-quarter games necessarily, and having to, again, win some of these close ones. But the accuracy that he's having late in some of these games and be able to find these receivers is really top notch. And he was dropping it into the bucket to Mbuka a couple of times. But Mbuka, again, made some great sideline catches here and showed that if he had to elevate his volume just overall, that you could really feed him a lot of receptions, and, you know, he could be a real heavy stats guy for him. So Evans was leading in all the major, you know, targets, receptions, yards throughout. I guess no touchdowns. And Mbuka was, again, that. And I think that does go to, you know, again, Evans in the red zone is a threat. But Mbuka's just ability to win one-on-one in his route as well, too, just is a different look for Baker in the red zone that, you know, he was finding success with. And Evans, you know, even more first downs. So, again, still virtually a number one receiver for him. But Mbuka could definitely step up if there is going to be some sort of, you know, extended time or just sort of hampering for Mike Evans this year. And I, you know, again, I don't know functionally how that changes what their play calling is, but I do wonder, just Baker looking to Mbuka, that's a reliable connection. And again, it's Baker being good, but it's Mbuka emerging as, you know, a guy who is just a guy that can make every catch and run every route early on. And the Ohio State receiver competition is really interesting as well, too, because, of course, you know, the LSU one is as high level as you can get, where you've had the last couple of years Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson battling it out as the best receiver in the league, but also, you know, who's the best LSU receiver as well, too. And now you just have Malik Neighbors in the mix, who, I guess, you know, is going to get so maybe is that like 3 receivers in a row from LSU that could have a receiving title? Like, that could be crazy. But I have to go back and look up all in AO chat. I don't have to look up anything from Ohio State, but we're going to have to go back and look up all of the receivers, I guess, drafted real quick, because Mbuka has a chance to be the best one, and I don't know stats-wise where he falls in the mix. Again, he's only played 3 games, so in this game, stats-wise, he wasn't, like, super crazy, just more important. He didn't even have a touchdown in this one, but the 6 for 85 was pretty good, again, with just the way he was playing. But they've had so many guys there lately that I just had to double check and remember all the names that have been produced. Because JSN, you know, major stats here on the way as well, too, with the way he's got the usage aligning for him in Seattle. But I think Mbuka is I've liked a little bit more Mbuka through a couple of games than JSN. See, yeah, that's right. Garrett Wilson is from Ohio State. I mean, Olave, maybe we go back and undo a couple of the hospital balls. There's an alternate timeline. You know, who knows? I guess, is this listed alphabetically here? So we'll have to pick out some of the names ourselves. I guess I don't really know how it's listed here. Oh, by number that they were picked. Ayo, it is what it is. So we've got Marvin Harrison, 24. Garrett Wilson, 22. Olave, Mbuka, JSN. Oh, Herbert, is that to McConkey? It's for a first down. I guess I don't know if it's third down. Kevin Harlan is making it sound like it's third down there in the background. And then in terms of first-round guys, we take a little bit of a break from the recency. Paris Campbell, 2019. Okay, we got to throw him in the mix, I guess. Oh, McLaurin, there we go. 2019 as well, too. KJ Hill, 2020. Okay. So, I guess a couple of names. And a couple of names in college as well too. Hey, yo, chat, love to see it. Love to see it's less names than we thought for Ohio State receivers. Obviously, top-end talent is crazy. But yeah, Mbuka might be number one. I think Garrett Wilson, his skill, if this was the list right here, if it's Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Mbuka, and JSN, and I think that might have been the picture, right? I mean, Harrison at one point would have been obviously the generational talent just in terms of the name as well too, but he had sort of the quote unquote, and still does, but the complete skill set at that receiver position versus Wilson maybe with more of the elite speed. And I guess we're leaving out McLaurin as well too. We got to throw McLaurin in here. A little bit kind of, maybe I was going to say a little bit Marvin Harrison-y, but a little bit maybe more Mbuka-like, because I think a little shorter than Harrison. But wait, how tall is Mbuka? Is Mbuka like a sneaky 6'2"? Receiver, he might be. Let's take a look here. 6'1", okay. So I guess 6'1", 6'2", that's still kind of in that ideal height range. I want to say McLaurin, he might be what? I don't want to, 5'10", 5'11", but he might. Okay, he's 6 foot, Chad. He's 6 foot. I don't know if McLaurin's lying on his driver's license or not, but if the list is these guys here, then the way Mbuka's played some of these catches again are pretty crazy. Olave. Again, if we can undo the timeline, I think Olave's top-end talent is pretty top-notch. I don't know where we're still at with that. And Wilson still has all the pieces to be, as great of a receiver as any of these guys. I feel like, Wilson with Baker is definitely the best quarterback situation that Garrett Wilson has had. It's probably not even close as well, too. So Kyler with Harrison, Jason's had Geno and now Sam Darnold. And McLaurin, I guess, has had Daniels this last year. So I don't know if that's the best stat year that any of these guys has put up, or the most impactful year that any of these guys have had. But Baker's definitely the best quarterback that any of these guys have played with. But there is something that I was thinking about team building wise as well too, with sort of that middle of the first round receiver, because speaking of, the LSU guys as well too, Jefferson was kind of in that middle of and Chase was a top of the draft receiver. Neighbors was a top of the draft receiver. Good players, obviously. There's going to be the hits and the misses throughout the range of the entire draft. But there is something I guess we could go back and look at that here now as well too. That might be a little more poking around research than we want to get into, but the history of that would be interesting to see, because those teams are a little bit more established, but those receivers as well too, it can be the second, third best receiver on the board, quote unquote, at a time. You don't often get the multiple top 10 receivers in the top 10. I guess sometimes you can get a run and maybe you go a 9, 10, 11 sort of a situation. So I guess 9 and 10, technically multiple in the top 10 there. But you do have a chance to get, maybe the quote-unquote arguably best receiver on the board in the teen sort of range. And I was thinking maybe Brian Thomas as well, too, for Jacksonville, even though that one hasn't necessarily worked out. That unfortunately has been maybe the opposite for Jacksonville, where they've invested super heavily in the receivers around Lawrence, and the tight end is the only thing that is reliable at this point for him. But in theory, it's a good move, and we still really like Brian Thomas as well. So I guess I don't know if we have to start blaming Trevor Lawrence. But that was a really smart pick for Tampa, and they've really invested a lot in the other spots and have drafted well to get impact guys on defense and to be able to long. But it didn't feel like they necessarily needed to add a receiver in the draft in a major way, and yet, the Evans going down is obviously something that's going to maybe help make this look a little bit better. But Mbuka just playing so well in general, elevating that offense is something that is just a thing that could elevate them overall for the ceiling for the year. And maybe is not, again, the position, the first round is the thing that you most want to get. And I think the receivers as well, maybe not to the degree the running backs, obviously, but there is a little bit of you can find them later in the draft value with those guys. And if we did the draft research, maybe we would find that, the second and the third round is actually the best place to take the receiver. And of course, the A.J. Brown, and there's all kinds of names we could name. A.J. Brown's, going to be our favorite one, but there's going to be Deebo Samuel, maybe the same draft, but other names that are great for those later value receiver spots. And, you know, you don't want to say that the Ewing theory for the James Conner injury and all the different stuff, but the Cardinals running back room is in a good spot, and Benson is a really good player, and he just bounced one to the outside, and I think him being an RB1 is not going to be a bad thing for this Cardinals offense this year for sure. But again, you know, the focus is definitely on hoping that James Conner is as healthy as possible as soon as possible there. But yeah, it would be something interesting to see if, you know, especially if you have the quarterback in place like Baker that can actually, again, help improve that value of that pick. And, you know, JSN is maybe another, you know, maybe he hasn't quite had the Baker, you know, again, Baker, probably top 10 quarterback this year. Like, maybe JSN hasn't quite been working with a top 10 quarterback, but at least he's had, you know, above average guys, and Darnold's maybe even a step up than Geno as well, too, with the way that Geno's played this year. Hasn't been necessarily been great, or at least, you know, changing out at the right moment as well, too, is always a possibility. But if you have, obviously, if you have everything in place, then yes, you can take a receiver. But if you have a good quarterback and that kind of top-end talent is on the board at that spot in the first round, that value is, and, you know, the receivers are getting paid as well, too, once they ascend to sort of that receiver one level. So it is shown on the market that receiver is a valuable spot on the field. But in the draft as well, too, I think as a team-building strategy, that could just be an interesting, at least for me anyway, you know, personally, is like, okay, maybe the value of taking guys there is something that I'm a little bit more willing to do. Because, again, as much as I would even have, you know, I guess for an Ohio State guy, liked Mbuka as a prospect and considered him in that first round sort of range. Just general team building, it's like, okay, the defense, the offensive line, maybe there's more important positions to look for. But yeah, receiver is, of course, obviously right up there with them all. And DeMercado drops a pass on third down in the red zone for Arizona. So we were just saying, you know, the running back room is going to be okay, but they give up a play right there. But that's one where, you know, DeMercado could have been on the field anyways. And who knows if the Conner injury impacts that scoring situation at all. You know, they could have had Benson out there anyways, but in a passing down, you know, you could definitely see DeMercado in that role. Of course, as he's gotten more prominence in that offense. But it's a field goal kicking game anyways, with Mac Jones on the other side, like we're saying. 6-6, chat. Hey, yo. So Caleb Williams with a little bit of a risky pass on the last one. It did get deflected. It is 3rd and 10. Cowboys look like they're only sending 4 on this one. Not showing much about blitz if we get like some guy on the outside. We do get a linebacker, but it's not crazy. Again, somebody open on the route going back. They stop the forward progress. DJ Moore doesn't get tackled. Of course, one of the toughest runners in the league. But a first down, chat. They're moving the chains. Caleb Williams, he's hovering around 50% right now, so it's not going to help his advanced analytics. But the eye test is definitely much better. You can see him maintaining confidence, like we're saying, very, very important. And no turnovers on the stat sheet yet. Would be a good way to definitely end this game. So Broncos, chat, with the lead 17-13, still looking for the offense to play really well outside of, you know, some broken plays by the Denver defense. But with the lead and, again, maintaining at least an ability to win, you know, if they win this one, you know, maybe there's some ability to win some of these ugly games. Could be a little bit of a formula for a different formula than we thought maybe for the year, but at least it's something. So there we go, chat. Caleb Williams a little bit has to extend the play there, kind of has to step out to the pocket a little bit, throws back across the field, but it's a good play. DJ Moore was open. He's able to get some yards after the catch, and Caleb Williams just looks like it didn't look too much like he panicked there. And again, it's just there's times under pressure when maybe it's not the most there's an ability for him to create in that situation. You want to have clean pockets and good routes and all different stuff, but you need guys to make plays as well too. So I mean, again, that's what we're getting for Caleb Williams. 3rd and 1. Okay, so not quite able to get to the first down. But that time it just looked like he was able to maintain some calmness. The third down run, Chad, I don't know if the running back picked the right spot, ayo. But he's able to put his head forward. DeAndre Swift, shout out. And get the first down. So this early second half drive, chat, could be a bit of a killer for the Cowboys. That's for sure. With the way the score is looking right now. But what other game should we mention yet, chat? Caleb Williams creating with his legs on that play. I guess we could continue to mention the AFC South since we mentioned the Colts. I guess double AFC South matchups today with the Colts, Titans, Texans, Jags. The Jags getting the win. The Texans being 0-3 might be the most surprising 0-3. I don't even know what the other here 0-3 teams are. Let's see on Tankathon real quick. We got Miami, I guess New Orleans, the Jets, and the Cleveland. Cleveland got the win today. So Tennessee, Chicago is looking like they might get their first win of the season. And we've got one of these teams is going to win tonight versus the Giants in Kansas City. If we had to predict, of course, we would say Kansas City, but we never know. It could be New York. But Carolina got a win as well, too. So there is still, I guess, a handful at this point. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in total. But Houston already had the worst offense going into the day in terms of points scored. And again, didn't defense as good as it's been. Couldn't hold up teams to that low scoring, and they were already 0-2. But they put up 10 points today, and again, Carolina had a good offensive day. We'll get to that game in a second as well. But this is not just tough for, of course, the Houston offense, but really tough for our Stroud stock. And unfortunately, it's going to be one of the main reasons we might have to do a player ranking a quarter of the way through the season. I think there's been some other spots on the pause on the field, other positions as well too, where it's just there's been some fun elevation and some guys playing well, and it would be fun to just rank just based on this season again how everybody's playing through 4 games. But unfortunately, we're really going to have to reconsider the Stroud QB rankings, and the Texans offensive line is definitely not giving him any time as well. But Stroud is definitely there's just been of course a lack of extraordinary plays from the Texans offense all the way around. And is this their first year without Bobby Slowick, or was he not there last year? I mean, the Texans offense wasn't great last year. They definitely stumbled into the playoff game and the success that they had there for sure. But the offense is definitely, like we're saying, taking a step back. You still have the weapon in Nico Collins, and the only time they did score the touchdown today was, again, speaking of miscommunications, was a major blown coverage by the Jags defense. So, I mean, basically, your one good offensive play for the entire year is, again, just a miscommunication by what the other team is doing. So shout out, Stroud able to take advantage. Again, if you're a good quarterback, I guess he's still able to make the simple plays. But it's been a tough stats year for him. It's been a tough stats year for the Texans offense. And fortunately for D'Amico Ryans as a coach as well, too, the Texans defense has been as good as it's been because, again, he's a defensive coach, so at least the identity of the team there is strong. But offensively, with the staff changes, I don't know if that's a positive or not, but with the coaching changes that they've had, it doesn't seem like they're able to find much of a system at this point as well, too. And again, the Jags themselves were not that brilliant today. I mean, they were not trying to win this game. Make no mistake. But the Texans offense, unfortunately, is just very dysfunctional. And again, speaking of Stroud, he made a pick at the end of the game as well, too. He had an interception that ended the final game-tying type drive. So, you go back and take away the one missed coverage and the late Jags score, then, this game is what, 10-3 is still 10-3 is still a 7-point game. It's still basically the same game that we watched. And I guess fortunately for them, they were able to get that at least offensive touchdown as well, too. Because I guess do defensive touchdowns go for points? I guess it would be points for, but I guess if we filter it by offensive points for, then obviously it wouldn't be listed in that type of a thing. But I don't know if we can start saying like, Texans are going to be a sneaky, like, are they going to make changes? Because you wouldn't, with the success that they have had rebuilding in a way that organization, and with the upside that they look like they once had, you're still going to give them at least this year and hopefully an offseason to adjust with what's going on. But it's definitely, I think, in question-raising territory as well, too. Because, again, this is a little bit of a 2-year run for Houston. And I don't know if we have to do a numbers check on Stroud real quick and just see where he's been at over the last couple of years. And, the runway I have for some of these guys before I totally lose confidence in all the stock that we had, it can be a minute. But, again, I feel like I've had to reevaluate C.J. Stroud a little bit, where I thought, he could be like an MVP of the league at some point with the way he was playing early in his career. It was legitimately, of course, a possibility. It's like, yeah, he's probably going to win the MVP of the league someday. And now it doesn't really feel like that is necessarily, and I guess, would I be shocked if he got back on track? No. But with the way he's playing lately, of course, that doesn't necessarily feel like that's the version of C.J. Stroud that we've been getting. And if we go week 9, last year, again, we don't really know the first couple of weeks if he was playing great before that. But his last 11 games going back to last year, he is less than 200 yards a game, 60% completion percentage, and basically, he's 1 for 1 touchdown to interceptions. In 11 games, his last 11 games, he has 10 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And the efficiency was part of the reason that he was so awesome as well, too, as a rookie. Just having so few turnovers for so early on in his career. Yeah, he had 5 picks the entire year as a rookie. And I think, completion percentage is a little up and down. Just kind of looking at scanning through the games here, not even sorting it out. But here, let's go before that Jets game, because I remember that game being kind of, tough. And the Green Bay game before that as well, too, 10 for 21, 86 yards is brutal. So we should have put that one in the mix. You do have a good Indy game in there as well. So you go first 6 games of 2024. He was 10 touchdowns, 4 picks. You already see a little bit of a difference there. And 262 yards a game, 68% completion percentage. So he was still on that Stroud train earlier on from his career. So here we go. Let's go just first 21 games of his career, 270 yards a game, 33 touchdowns, 9 picks. So that's 5,600 yards through 21 games. He's 14-7, 10 fumbles, 5 fumbles lost. I guess here, wait, let's go back and see. He was sacked in that period of time. Does it show us here how much? Okay, it doesn't. We might have to go to a advanced stats game log for that real quick. Oh, wait, let's sort this back and then go that stretch again. And let's go here a little bit more, adding that Green Bay game in. Just to make sure, chat. So we got last 13 games, 5-8 record, 60% completion percentage, 195, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. 4 fumbles, 3 fumbles lost. So, kind of in the same territory. Maybe even, a little bit better in that category just by, a smidge. But, again, you see a definite numbers difference over the last handful of games. And nearing now, a full regular season's worth of games in terms of what this productions look like. And on 4th and goal, the Arizona Cardinals get an incredible stop check. Great play by the defensive back to get in there and break up the pass to McCaffrey. McCaffrey getting just absolutely lit up at the goal line. Ayo. Hopefully that doesn't mean he's out for the next 4 weeks in fantasy. It seems like he's going to be okay. But he's definitely, there's no way they don't evaluate him for a concussion after this, especially since it's McCaffrey. It's just an aggressive hit. So, again, I don't know if, we're not saying it was a hit to the head, pause, or a dirty play or anything like that. It's just on any aggressive hit, it's going to be McCaffrey should probably be in the blue tent. So McCaffrey's probably done for this game and probably, 2 of the next 3 weeks as well, too, after that play, unfortunately. But, yeah, Stroud as well, too. I don't know if Texans are, what's going on, what's happening at the future of the quarterback spot. But these numbers for nearly a season now are not looking, again, too inspiring. So Rattler on the rollout, chat, 44-6. Oh, but he got the guy in the back of the end zone. Every drive is a new opportunity for Rattler, chat. Rattler does literally have a blank slate for every drive. I feel just mentally, I start every drive at 0-0 for the score on the game. It's 44-12. It's like, is that really his fault? It is what it is. A couple of good drives. I think the Saints offense is kind of consistently under 20 points a game, and Rattler, again, makes some fun plays. Maybe he is just a kind of a fun backup as well. But I think maybe the Saints offense is starting to show where they're at. And again, the special teams defense was maybe something that was like, okay, if they're going to be in games, it's going to be because of that. But speaking of backups, chat, Vikings versus Bengals. Hey, yo, the battle of the backups. And, I guess I don't know for the Vikings if it was the battle of the backups. Hey, yo, maybe it was actually their starter. Chat, we just closed everything out here real quick. We'll bring it back up. Sorry, we got here we go. The web page. We'll get the camera going again as well, too. Boom, we're back up and running. I mean, I don't know if Carson Wentz obviously is going to be the starter, and we actually don't want him to be the starter. Oh, chat, what a week for Bears fans. The bounce back week. I mean, maybe it was just in the works for him as well, too. Are they just due? They're just due for a good game. But after at least again, the mental of Bears fans last week, this is a good sort of, okay, maybe we're not at the worst spot in the league. Because I guess they were trending there, chat. There was a possibility that after this game, it's like, are the Bears fans in sort of one of the toughest spots in the league? But no, not after a performance like this through 3 quarters. So don't give it up in the fourth, I guess, is, hopefully what doesn't happen here. But it is looking good so far for Caleb Williams. So, I guess we were saying something about Texans, Jags, Stroud. Oh, Vikings, Bengals, backups. Hey, Stroud and backups. I don't know why that was the thing that got us there. But, again, we believe in McCarthy. So we're not, Wentz should be the guy going forward. Because you do start getting into are the Vikings the win now team? And could they make try to make another championship run? They didn't make one with Darnold last year, but there's some upside there. But, could they get that back to that sort of feistiness with a reclamation project quarterback in Carson Wentz? But I think a little bit like our, Dimes is obviously playing really well, but that is maybe a reflection of Steichen and what he's able to get out of the quarterbacks. I think this is the same with O'Connell, and it was part of that conversation with Darnold and why he won the Coach of the Year last year. Kevin O'Connell did. But, we just continue to buy all the stock for him as one of the guys. And he might be making a case for us right now for best head coach in the NFL. I don't know if he can say that without winning a Super Bowl or having any playoff success. But best regular season head coach in the NFL, maybe we could say that. I guess we could make that case right now. Andy Reid's got a legacy, I guess, outside, I guess maybe, I don't know if we still would take Sirianni in a playoff game as a head coach. I don't know if that says something about Sirianni. But I guess maybe with a McVay as well, too. Shout out. We'd have to take McVay. Bo Nix on 4th and 1, chat. There we go. Cortland Sutton finds him across the middle of the field. Definitely more than a yard. And it looks like the penalty is going to add some to that as well, too. So you comfortably field goal range. You're still looking to push it to more than one score here. But, face mask on the defense, chat. But maybe this drive is looking like it's a little bit more than that. So you do have the Chargers, again, also 0-2, due for maybe a little bit of a game. The Broncos, 2 sort of bad games, starting to look a little bit more functional here in the second half. And maybe as Sean Payton starts to get out of September, things start to get a little bit better as well, too. But, again, I think, Carson Wentz is at least more pro-readiness than J.J. McCarthy's ability to run this offense. Shows you what it is capable of. And just, again, the level of talent he's able to get out of the offense. And the defense was awesome as well today, too. Isaiah Rodgers had 2 touchdowns himself and 3 turnovers. And I don't know if they had any other touchdowns and turnovers as well, too. In Mason, chat, Jordan Mason, 16 carries for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. I was literally talking to somebody yesterday we were talking about Mbuka and Jordan Mason, and he showed me his lineup. And I was like, I don't know. I might put Mbuka in over Jordan Mason just based on like a football guy sort of thing. And he was like, I don't know, Jordan Mason might get more opportunity on the Vikings. And I was, I feel like I was using Carson Wentz as an excuse not to play Jordan Mason, but I was thinking it might be like, hey, O'Connell might be able to get Carson Wentz playing well. They might kind of throw a little bit, and I don't know if they're going to run the ball. Like the Vikings haven't been like a great running team over the last couple of games, last whatever stretch here. But yeah, Mason is playing like that, and getting him more involved is, and just that Cincinnati defense as well too. The susceptible performance, I'm sure, but at least great fantasy day for him, and then getting a couple of goal line opportunities as well too, to add on to top of that. And I think at least, I don't want to say good thing for Bengals fans that Browning struggled, but it would have been interesting if, and you can always chalk it up to the early season starts for Cincinnati as well too. They're notorious for it, but it would have been interesting if Browning would have gone out there and played a good game, because speaking of the backups, he maybe had the belt for best backup in the league. There's been a feistiness to him when he has gone in. So I don't know if Rattler can win the best backup belt while he's a starter, but if we do a little projecting, then it seems like he's in line for a fun run. Or maybe he is like a guy that bounces around a little bit as a starter and has a little bit of a career in that way. Dak with another, I don't know if that's a hospital ball. That is a good pass up the sideline. That's a good maybe hit by the corner by Byard there. Ayo. But Turpin got lit up on that play, and Dak got some pressure as well too. But yeah, Browning did struggle. So at least that Burrow is maybe not just playing bad. It is the Bengals situation around him as well too. But yeah, Rodgers was outstanding today, and he's Colts fans, we've all really liked him. Like, the only reason I think he's not on the team is because of that gambling situation that he had, and unfortunately, like, moves just have to be made when things like that happen. But I think Minnesota was his next stop after that, unless there was one like other training camp stop. But I think at least Minnesota was the next roster that he made after that, and he was a guy that was basically probably going to be the Colts starting corner. I don't know if he was like announced on the depth chart when all that stuff happened, but it seemed like, Colts Nation, there was like some buzz of like, hey, Isaiah Rodgers, like, he kind of is a fun corner, and if he's the starter out on the outside, that'd be a nice compliment to what Kenny Moore's able to bring. So to see him actually produce on Minnesota, again, not necessarily surprising for us Colts fans, but this kind of day, of course, is absolutely crazy. And one of the main reasons why the Vikings were able to score so many points. And again, we're not giving up on McCarthy. If anything, it gives us hope that this is the right place. If anything, it'll be the best he'll ever looks under Kevin McConnell. I don't know if that'll be good or bad, but this is as good as a situation as you can get in for learning as a quarterback. So, if McCarthy, if we're looking at it, and I don't know if we have to give him the Caleb Williams run time like a year and a couple of games, and then week 4 of next year, it's like, okay, primetime game, we're giving up hope, and all of a sudden he's playing well. But like we're saying, the ability for him to produce well, if he is going to do it, it feels like he should be able to do it in Minnesota. And honestly, and I know they're all in on McCarthy, but if they want chat, like, I think, and I know that we've basically been the last person on Richardson Island, and I think I'm still on Richardson Island. I'm not necessarily selling my ticket, but I'm maybe making suggestions for what to do with Richardson Island at this point. Maybe we have to start. Maybe the value is not in staying anymore. Maybe we have to start. I feel like we've claimed ownership of the island just because everybody's left. It's like, oh well, I guess it's just our island now. Okay, so now I guess we have to decide if the best thing to do with it is to stay here, or maybe to make moves somewhere else. But if we do have to make a move off Richardson Island, I think that the place that we'd be willing to send him to would, I guess, we'd be willing to transfer ownership of Richardson Island over to Kevin O'Connell. I don't know if we're getting in crazy territory here, but just stumbling through metaphors. The point being, if I had to choose one coach to be like, who do you think could turn around Richardson's career? I guess again, probably Sean McVay as well too. But I honestly think I probably would pick Kevin O'Connell. I would just like to see if Richardson's able to produce as a quarterback. It feels like he would be able to at least put up numbers in that situation, and some of the deep threat stuff as well too. Like, I think maybe O'Connell could unlock some stuff in that. So again, it'd just be a general like, how could O'Connell get him to dial in some of the accuracy stuff? But I'm finally mentally ready to make a Richardson trade, chat, and I found the trade. It's McCarthy for Richardson. I don't know if it's a 1-for-1. Maybe a couple more bad games for McCarthy, and it is. But I guess the other problem was, again, mentally just like, oh, we have to throw in picks now to get rid of our 4th overall pick from a couple years ago. Like, that's just, that's terrible. But, and, I'm not trying to be overly critical of Ballard there. I'm just saying that that's just, not the situation you want to be in as a football team. But if it, for, I guess, a pro Richardson, if I was looking at it from a pro Richardson standpoint and saying, okay, what's the opportunity for him to turn around his career, I would be willing for the Colts to throw in a pick to send him to the Vikings. Be like, okay, Kevin McConnell, see if Richardson is a guy that you can resurrect the career. Or again, if McVay is going to pitch a trade, but they don't. Again, they can't necessarily send us back McCarthy. I guess if they send us back Stafford, hey, I don't know how many picks we're throwing in the trade now, and then it really would be Ballard getting Stafford for 1 year would be perfect. But at least maybe with McCarthy we get that potential as well too, and then Steichen and McCarthy. Again, we really like Steichen, so. Unfortunately, him and Richardson just weren't able to align on some stuff. Doesn't seem like. But maybe McCarthy. I don't know. McCarthy's a little more Steichen speed. Hey, I don't know what that means. But maybe systematically he's able to control some of the more of the stuff. Oh, and turnover by the Bears defense. Oh, Chad, it's turning into domination. Hey, it's in the 4th quarter, so Dak's got to throw a pick. Oh, speaking of picks, it's off of Pickens' hands. Hey, Chet, Dak didn't know that George Pickens meant George interceptions. It's the deflections. It's the ones he should have caught. Is this the karma now for all the sideline passes that he didn't quite haul in, and now he's the open field ones he's going to deflect and turn into turnovers? I know the score is already getting out of control, but, maybe any kind of drives here just to make it interesting. Just to cover the spread? I don't know. But Pickens, not helping Dak's stat line out any. But yeah, shout out to O'Connell for the dominant win today against the Bengals. Hopefully Browning's able to hold up before Burrow gets back. Or if it looks so bad, you're just like, maybe Burrow's not back this year. Maybe Browning just is the sacrificial lamb for, maybe the weaknesses on this roster. But yeah, I guess let's go Carolina versus Tampa next, because this was probably up there with, again, the most surprising results of the day. Speaking of best performances class, speaking of chat, I'm thinking of draft classes. Ayo, stumbling over our words. Speaking of draft classes, chat. Ayo, Bryce Young playing well. Speaking of the draft comparisons, anyways, trading the picks for Bryce Young that ended up being Caleb Williams. That link that's there. Oh, Mac Jones. Down the field on 4th and 2. Is that to Pearsall? Oh, did Pearsall get that in bounds? Chad, he did. 1st and goal, Niners. Shout out. But this was, again, the best first half of Bryce Young's career. The best first quarter. Like, when they scored in the first quarter, I was like, this has got to be the earliest the Panthers have ever taken the lead in the Bryce Young era. This is crazy. I feel like, and, we went through and looked at some of their wins over the last couple of weeks, just with them being competitive in that Cardinals game. Be like, oh, is this the best Bryce Young's ever played? Just putting up some stats here in the 4th quarter. Because that Houston win they got was pretty ugly. They've had some ugly wins. So for them to actually go out and Bryce Young to have a dominant win, it's like, oh, maybe this is turning around. Because speaking of good stretches, again, I know Arizona was really trying to give that game away. They were, the refs anyways were calling a lot of penalties on the Cardinals. And the Cardinals did have they did allow an offensive sides. Or allow an onside kick to happen as well. And, they just gave up this 4th quarter bomb. We got to get better word choice here, Chad. They just gave up this 4th quarter. I was going to say strike. They gave up this 4th quarter deep shot. It's all bad, Chad. They gave up that 4th quarter long ball to Pearsall. So maybe they're right back on track for late game mistakes. And the touchdown now to Juszczyk. Shout out. Niners take the lead. 12-6. So Kyler, we'll see. Again, not great opponents in theory the last couple of games, unless this Panthers win starts to look better, or they just the Panthers didn't turn it around quite in time for them to win that game. But 5 quarters now that Bryce Young has played really well. So again, readjusted expectations. Number 1 overall pick. Want him to probably be a little bit more in the MVP conversation, but. NFC South, he's winning some games. He's turning it around. He's being a good starter. Trade value at some point. The problem is going to become that second contract, Chad. It was a lot easier to decide what to do on that second contract the way he was playing before. Now, he's playing his way into a paycheck. It's like, oh, Bryce Young's going to get a max contract based on 7 good games through 4 years. Who knows? But also, like I said, turn it around. 5 quarters. We're pro Bryce Young. So we don't want to necessarily sit here and say that, he's not going to, again, continue his career as an impactful guy. But we're also, fantasy smart team building as well, too. So we're just going to see how it plays out. And that's a couple years away. Maybe a year away at this point. Maybe he starts to see where that contract goes. So, I guess 16 for 14, 121, him particularly, was not great. And Penix, 2 picks. I guess there was a couple of short field drives, so we can't necessarily look at that totally. And, the numbers there because, again, they weren't necessarily having a ton of... They didn't have to move the ball a ton as well. But the Penix thing was bad, and again, that Vikings game, we'll just have to see how the football math plays out. But the Vikings defense is still good, so it was like, okay, just because they're not converting these drives into touchdowns, like they were still scoring in the last game, a lot of field goals, and they were able to get some scores late in terms of getting into the end zone. But Penix is early in his career, and that was a good opponent, so it's like, okay, these drives can only get better from here if they just start putting these into the end zone. Pause. Like it's, this could be a really scary team. But unfortunately, it was a step back game, and they had to put Kirk Cousins into the game at some point. 5 for 7 for 29 yards. It's like, okay, at least the arm talent, like Penix is probably still going to be playing, even if he's turned it over. Like you can, at least call some play. Like Kirk Cousins it really is not pushing the ball down the field at this point. It is what it is. But again, speaking of the eye test, Hurts versus Stafford on sort of the high end. Penix versus Bryce Young. Shout out to Bryce Young, but that's not necessarily the eye test. One thing you want to have to not pass at this point. Bryce Young is a veteran compared to Penix, even though maybe age-wise they are pretty similar. Who knows? Penix, of course, in college a couple years. But NFL experience, Bryce Young does have it over Penix. This is only like Penix, again, like 5th start in his career. So him having a little bit of a roller coaster would not be the most unpredictable thing. But the Carolina defense as well, too, felt like one that could be really susceptible. And they were kind of getting some pressure. They were converting the turnovers as well. So they might, again, Carolina. I don't know. We were calling them the number 1 pick even still after that Arizona game. Like, this is probably going to be a team that's maybe trending more in that direction. And maybe this is a fluke week. Again, we'll just have to see. But maybe this is like a 6-7 win team and they're able to win a couple of these NFC South games, and then Bryce Young's able to actually steal a couple of games outside that as well. So, hey, again, step forward, chat. I don't know if it gives you a ton of hope next year if you're like, 7 wins, we're still kind of in that middle ground. It's still a little indefinite. But from where it started in the regular season itself to where it could end up could be a major improvement, which would be something that you would want to see. The Falcons, and Penix did play well speaking of Tampa, had good moments in that Tampa game, got him in a spot at the end of the game to win the game as well too. And they also missed a couple of field goals, so it's not like he's been helped out in completing some of these drives. But this one, again, it's not like they're just a couple of missed field goals away from winning. It was unfortunately a little bit more on the quarterback than not. But we still trust him to continue to get better, and there's still a lot of talent on that team. Bijan, I think, still had a decent day. 13 for 72 is, still pretty good there. So, the skill guys and the pieces around Penix, of course, still look pretty good. But, again, they got a lot of pressure in that Minnesota game. I don't know if that's going to speak more to the Minnesota offensive line. Again, the Bengals defense, even though Hendrickson is there, I think they're still able to operate a little bit. And it's not like, again, Wentz had a major great stat line. I don't know if he was running around a little bit or not in that one. That game was not on the red zone a ton. Even though the Vikings were scoring, of course it was a decisive game. So there was not a lot of the in-between plays to be watching in the moment. But, again, it didn't seem like the pressure was able to carry over in the same type of way. So, again, young guys, step forward, up and down weeks. It could even out by the end of the year. But it'll be one of those, was there some fluke top-end performances that happened in that game? Did they have a great defensive game against the Vikings? I guess if Penix gets better and the defense is okay, then, that's still a pretty good recipe as well, too. But Franklin Myers for the Broncos on the sack chat, 4th and 11 for the Chargers. So the Chargers down 7, 4th and 11. I don't think you can go for this. Where are you at midfield? Are they in field goal range? Oh, chat, if they were, they're probably pushing it pretty close. I don't know, Dicker the kicker? Ayo.
it's the Chargers. So they're going to be unreliable. But now it's going to be in punting territory. So here we go, chat. Bo Nix, the Broncos offense. Let's see if Sean Payton can call like a closeout type drive here early in the fourth quarter. Go up 2 scores. So, yeah, shout out Bryce Young. Shout out to, I guess, Chua Hubbard. Decent day as well, too. But 30-0 is pretty crazy for the Panthers, obviously. I don't know. Has Bryce Young even scored? He hasn't even scored 30 points yet. So, at least team-wise. Again, most successful team game that he has been a part of. But Washington versus the Raiders. Washington, without Daniels, of course, one-sided game. Definitely probably going to be more of like, oh, the Raiders are probably a weaker team this year. I thought that maybe they were going to be a little bit more competitive for the wild card. And, again, maybe Geno would be more in the top half of the league mix for quarterback. And if you have an above-average quarterback with some of the skill guys that they had there, then maybe that top-end talent is enough to win the day. Because even a guy like Michael Myers, that's the guy. Michael Mayer? Have we just been watching a lot of the Halloween movies? I don't know. But Michael Mayer, that's the guy they have there. Yeah, Michael Mayer. We have been watching a lot of Halloween movies. Michael Mayer is a guy that can produce. But, the way that Brock Bowers is produced as well, too. Like, he's already, best tight in the league material. So they do have those blue chippers, of course, that are impacting the game right away. But, unfortunately, Geno may actually be more of a bottom half of the league quarterback. And the defense is a little too up and down at this point as well, too. Again, you give up 41 points to Mariota, and they were running all over him today. Like, the Washington run game, they do have a lot of running backs, so there is, I think, an investment in that aspect, even though, they've lost Eckler. They traded away Brian Robinson. They still like Chris Robinson and Bill, I guess, is the guy. And McNichols as well, too, had a 60-yard touchdown, in this game. So, McBride in the corner of the end zone, chat. Arizona goes right down and ties the game. That's the best Kyler Murray drive of the season right there. I don't know skill-wise if it is, but situationally, losing, again, Mac Jones, 49ers, I think we're evaluating them a little bit differently. But at least Shanahan in the regular season, there is a comparativeness that you do have to say that this is still somewhat of that Niners team. But this would have been an interesting game for Daniels to be in. Again, obviously with how good the Commanders' defense, or how good the Commanders were in this game overall, scoring and putting up the 40-plus points. And Mariota, 15 for 21, 207, they were able to limit his production, and he was still able to be efficient as well, too. Perfect old man backup game for Mariota. But like we've said, the MVP odds do reflect it. So I think, it's obviously must be, and if we're noticing it, it must be obvious on the eye test. But he has been playing well despite the fact that the Commanders have maybe not had the best results early in the year. It still has felt like he has made a ton of positive plays for this year and has had to withstand a lot of pressure from the other teams. I mean, like you would expect. So to see him go up against maybe a little, again, like Caleb Williams today, to see him go up against a lack performance, if he was able to go out and dominate like this, but also put up crazy stats or just lead this Commanders in a crazy way, I think it would have, he could have been a top guy in the MVP voting after this. They'd be 2-1. That one loss would be the Packers. Again, obviously that's still a good, in a way, a good loss after today's game against the Browns. But to have, again, even it's still a decent eye test game, but to have your worst numbers game against Micah Parsons in the Packers defense is a little bit different than I think for Love. And I guess Myles Garrett in the Browns defense, we got to put it, I guess, on the same level as an individual unit. But for him to just be like, oh, yeah, that's right. No, Jaden Daniels is one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year still. This would have been obviously a great opportunity for that. And I think Geno even still, I guess, had a good numbers game. 19 for 29, 289, and 3 touchdowns. And, 24 points, okay, it's not terrible, though I guess they only had 10 going into the fourth quarter. But, and no interceptions for Geno in the same type of way. But, yeah, the pressure for the Commanders' defense was really good, and they were able to contain GT a little bit as well, too. He hasn't quite had the major performance to start his career. Trey Tucker, I guess, with the dominant day. All 3 of Geno's touchdowns, Chad. Hey, yo. 8 for 145. We still love Jacoby Myers, and I guess, like we're saying, Brock Bowers is the guy that you would assume would be the number 1 receiver. But Trey Tucker, I guess, is really capable of getting the stats as well, too. don't know if I would quite say he's a better weapon at this point than Brock Bowers, but I guess if he led them in receiving yards, that wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. Again, I would still expect Bowers, but Bo Nix uses his legs, chat. Pause, scrambling for the 3rd and 13. The Broncos in their own territory with the original line of scrimmage there, but that run brings it out to about the 30-yard line. They have a little bit more room to operate with now. Let's see if he falls forward in time for the first down here. Oh, they may get him a little bit short, but again, 3rd and 13. I don't know if you put them in go for it here on that 4th down territory because they are in field goal range for the Chargers. Yeah, you got to punt this. Even though a field goal, they kind of want a touchdown here. 5 minutes left. You can't just give them 3 points, and they still have their 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. It would be too much time. And I guess they would still need a touchdown on the next drive. It would still be a 4-point game. But play the field position. Your defense has played well today and maintained the Chargers offense. So I think for the most part, that is the right move for Sean Payton. 4th and 5, Dallas down 31-14. A heavy pressure front from the Bears here. The Cowboys, I mean, they're definitely in Brandon Aubrey's field goal range. They're probably in anybody's field goal range at this point. But Dak takes the snap, Chad. He drops back. They need touchdowns. He finds his receiver on the out route, going back to the sideline. We don't even know who this receiver is. I don't even know if he's going to Pickens anymore. You know, CeeDee Lamb, I think, out for the game with the ankle injury. I guess we didn't hear specifically an injury report, but I imagine that would be the ruling. Herbert uncorks a deep one, chat. Oh, Chad, he goes for Quentin Johnson. Again, Quentin Johnson will have to go back and see. Could he have reached out and got that one? That was close. That was going in, pause, like a missile. Hey, yo, whoa, pause. Are we talking about him and Madison Beer? We're talking about football, Jay. We're talking about trying to get past to Quentin Johnson. Hey, yo. But that was, Quentin Johnson hitting his helmet like he should have gotten that one. Yeah, I was going to say, that was almost about as perfect of a throw as you can get. You know, he's got such a good... but he's got such a good like flight pattern on his passes. I guess it was just AO to tight or whatever, but rotation, you know, it's just, the balls are pause. AO. Now that's a pause, Chad. The balls are tight is a pause. But for Herbert, it is what it is. You know, his passes are just I guess a crispness is maybe what we should say. There's a crispness to his passes that make any kind of down the field throw look great. But Johnson probably should have got that one based on accuracy as well, too. So, speaking of, Chet, Dak, down the field passes. Ayo, was able to get Turpin that time. Turpin, I guess, did not go to the concussion tent after that hit. Or he did, and they cleared him. But he's able to get some separation and haul that pass in there. So, Herbert, 3rd and 9. Field goal range for... wait a second. Nope. That's their other 20, Chet. Ayo. But working their way there. They pick up the first down. Is that Keenan Allen? It is. Once again, Hufanga. Oh, Hufanga with the penalty. He's been in the range of a couple down the field passes. I mean, you love that he's getting the tackles, but also it's like, hey, why is that guy open if you're around him? And this time the penalty adds extra, they already picked up the first down. So just give him another set of downs, why don't you? With the penalty, and, I guess if they had Brandon Aubrey, they'd also be in field goal range as well, too. I guess you can't really do Brandon Aubrey as an all-time kicker, but that might be the first AI football player, chat. AI Brandon Aubrey. What are the rights to that? It's like Brandon Aubrey. Does he get to choose how many versions of himself he can lease to the NFL? AI-wise? He's going to, 31, so it's like every other team can have. Just he makes a ton of money because he knows everybody's going to get the AI Brandon Aubrey kicker versus the other AI kickers. Or is he just like drive up the price of one? And be like, no, actually, no AI Brandon Aubrey kickers, but the real Brandon Aubrey is going to make all the money. So I guess, would the real Brandon Aubrey make all the money, or would the AI Brandon Aubreys make the money instead? Would he have to split the money with the AI Brandon Aubreys? That'd be crazy, chat. Because, I mean, do the AI Brandon Aubreys have to be able to go to the store and buy stuff themselves? Like, I don't know if he wants to, do everything for the AI Brandon Aubreys as well, too. I mean, that would be crazy, but, just the day-to-day things. So, I guess that could also be a pause. But Dak is now 30 for 36, 248 and a touchdown. So you do see, again, a little of the, I guess that one flying out of the back of the end zone, but a little bit of the pass-to-pass consistency for him versus Caleb Williams. But again, just Caleb Williams, the amount of positive plays that he's been able to make today has definitely been at an all-time high. So Hampton, chat. Hampton with a run to the outside picks up the first down. The Chargers offense is moving here a little bit. The Broncos defense, again, has been really good all day. Peyton probably had to punt that one, though it was a close 4th down. But they are definitely turning that into a interesting decision. And Mac Jones, chat, the first Mac Jones of the day. I think Purdy is not, necessarily unsusceptible from a interception. 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. But Mac Jones with the turnover, chat, and the game tied. Now Kyler Murray has a chance. So Arizona, maybe they also win ugly games. Maybe that's what happens when you're not a dominant team, chat. Maybe a couple teams in the league only win dominant games. But now against a little bit of an elevated roster here, a little bit elevated coaching, they do have a chance to get in a divisional win as well too. Early on, Herbert avoiding pressure, 2nd and 6. Oh, chat! A highlight of the year! Herbert on the rollout, the defender all over him. Hey, yo! Both defenders, the defender all over the receiver, all over the quarterback. It doesn't matter. Herbert makes the throw. Allen makes the catch. It's a touchdown, chat. The Broncos have to block this field goal. Hey, yo. Or Dicker, the kicker, has to step up and miss it. Oh, Dak! Speaking of pass-to-pass efficiency, I forgot it was the 4th quarter. He just threw a pick. Oh, man. It would have cut the lead to 10 with 4 minutes left. It would have been still, a couple of plays away from interesting. Not even quite interesting yet. But that is, tough for the Dak stats. Tough for the, just the general 4th quarter vibes of our guys. So the Chargers tie the game, chat. Herbert with, speaking of MVP stuff, MVP level drive. I don't know if Bo Nix, with the way he's played through the first 2 weeks, can get into the MVP conversation with a win here versus the Chargers, though the team can definitely, gain some confidence, and it would be helpful for his, his individual confidence as well too on the year. But Herbert already being in that conversation, getting a sort of a season belt-ish type win with the win over Mahomes and a chance to fight through an ugly game and have a big 4th quarter here against, again, a high-valued opponent in the Denver Broncos would be good. 24 for 43 on the day. At some point, the volume kind of outweighs the completion percentage, and you're just like, oh, Herbert's carrying everything on this team. Hampton did have a good play, though, again, on that first down, going to the outside. Warner bats down the pass on 3rd and 5 and makes it 4th down for the Niners defense. They hold strong. They have the elite players on that side of the football, and Fred Warner steps up, making elite plays right there, chat. On the blitz, and then just, almost even pulls in the interception there, chat. Oh, Fred Warner, sneaky will drop an interception. It is what it is. But he will also, in turn, get the deflection. So, yeah, shout out to the Commanders as well, too, and their defense for looking good today. We do have to credit them. Wagner with 2 sacks. Armstrong with 1. We got Von Miller making an impact as well, too. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, chat, getting in there. Pause. To the quarterback. Crosby still getting on the board is, obviously a credit to how good he is. But, yeah, otherwise, the Commanders basically dominating this game throughout. We did mention Green Bay versus the Browns a little bit. Oh, Pittsburgh, New England. I think, is that the last game we haven't mentioned, chat? I think so. So we do have Bo Nix, and the game is tied. So 2 minutes left, all 3 timeouts in the 2-minute warning. You only need a field goal. I mean, this is about as manageable of a spot as you could get for your quarterback right here, chat. Chargers defense has been good. It's not, I guess totally free of adversity, but it is, it's a gift for a 4th quarter game-winning opportunity for Bo Nix. And again, the Chargers at 2-1 and the Broncos at 1-2 with a divisional win. The Chargers do also, also have a divisional win against Kansas City, which again is important. I'm assuming Kansas City 0-2 not in the conversation yet, but we assume record-wise it's going to be important throughout the course of the year. So a little bit of a tough play call there from Sean Payton, chat. Not going to lie. They set up the running back screen. I don't know if that's just sort of maybe bad execution on the screen as well, too. Dobbins slips and falls, and the blocker slipped as well, too, which allowed the defender into the play. But it felt like they set that screen up way too far behind the line of scrimmage for where they're out on the field, 2nd and 10. I don't know if I'd want to be going forward a little bit more. Oh, Chet, in the Niners-Cardinals game, we may have a holding in the end zone. Mac Jones was pressured on the drop back, and it looks like, I mean, we might get a safety here. The Cardinals might take the lead on a 49er penalty. Hey, yo, chat, we're going to get the official call here. We do get the holding. The team is celebrating the safety. The call is in. It's going to be 15-13 Arizona. I don't know if this is a scoregami territory, but maybe the combination of points is scoregami. Great pass rush by the interior. Who is that? That's not Walter Nolan, is it? Oh, Campbell? Is that Calais? Hey, yo, Chad, Calais Campbell. Still making an impact in 2025. I mean, that was right off the snap, as quick as you can get, right through the interior of the line, and blew that play right up. So let's get back to this Bo Nix game. Hey, yo, Chad, are we in timeout? Did he go to the 2-minute warning there? Because Red Zone's got to shout out the Isaiah Rodgers play. I mean, either that or Fox should just cut to that game. Is that a Fox game? Oh, chat. It's a CBS game. Okay. We're going to run into issues with that because it's not a national type game, so I don't think Paramount's going to let us stream this one, unfortunately. We can mute the live stream and just listen to the radio broadcast and report back with what's going on. But, yeah, I guess we're on the 2-minute warning right now. We should just pay attention to the screen and what's going on. So 3rd and 10 after that play that we were mentioning. And, fortunately, they were able to get back to the line of scrimmage, at least not lose yards on that situation. So, the safety part of it as well, too, Chet, is the Cardinals get the ball back. So 3:15, and the Niners have their 3 timeouts as well, too. We just saw their defense get a pretty big stop, and there's a good chance that the Cardinals offense will not chew up a lot of clock here, but they're in a good spot to have the last drive if they want it. Good, safety return. You're able to get a decent push on that, but they do get out to the 35. So here we go. The stage set for Kyler, chat, as well. Bo Nix and Kyler. Can they get the wins, or will it be Mac Jones and Justin Herbert? We'll just have to see, because I think Sam Darnold is looking pretty comfortable. I guess that game just went final versus Rattler. I don't know if it just went final, but it is final right now. 13-44. Shout out to Seattle with the performance of the day so far. I guess no, Minnesota, 48. It is what it is. The Seattle secondary, so Young versus, or was that the guy, chat? Not, who was it? Horton? Torrey Horton versus Isaiah Rodgers for player of the day. So Bo Nix, another down the field shot, just overthrows Cortland Sutton, chat. Sutton was wide open. I don't know, did the corner just get torched on that route? Sutton just ran right by him, chat. Wide open. I guess for the NFL, he's wide open. He's got 2 steps, almost a step and a half on the corner, and that safety is just not quite there in range to make a play yet. He's got plenty of window to drop that pass in there. And unfortunately, it's just a little bit over the fingers. Even the diving attempt by Sutton, not able to get it. So, again, game tied. If their defense makes a stop, you can go to overtime. I don't know if they're going to be able to get the ball back with enough time to make a functional drive with the way that Bo Nix has been playing so far. But the game is definitely not over. Versus San Francisco is starting to look a little bit tricky. I guess Arizona's already gotten 1 first down. Shanahan going to start using his timeouts before the 2-minute warning here with 2:16 left. So Arizona with another set of downs. So he's going to call that timeout. It's going to be a first down. So they'll have 2 timeouts for 2 more downs here. Yeah, they'll in the 2-minute warning. Shanahan, okay, clock management staying good. Now they're just going to have to get a stop. The defense, again, just got to stop. But last year, them actually closing out games, that probably would have been up there with the weaknesses of the team. I mean, if we're just, the weakness is either the offense or the defense, if we're just going that broad with it. But, again, their ability to get off the field late in the games was definitely something that hampered them from making the playoffs. So we'll see if it is something that allows the Cardinals to drive up the field on this one. But Pats versus the Steelers is the last game for the early window. that we haven't mentioned yet as the late window wraps up. Not the most, thrilling points game, though it did end up being 14-21. So I guess, both teams either kind of going the length of the field or not necessarily, and just kind of long drives in general as well, too, methodical. Rodgers with only 139 and a touchdown, and he did have a pick. Again, he didn't necessarily look crazy today. He did pass Favre in the all-time interception, or all-time touchdown stuff. So, he continues to move up those stats rankings as well, too. But May, 37 passing attempts, chat, 268 a touchdown, 2 touchdowns and an interception. And I think he had a fumble as well, too. So the turnovers were definitely costly for him. And it was a couple of those plays where you're like, oh, man, he's playing so well. Like, why do you have to have these turnovers that are, this costly for the team? But that, oh, man, he is playing so well, chat, is getting better every game a little bit. And the Chargers moving the ball on this drive as well, too. The run game has really started to kick into effect here as well, late, and has helped with that. Move the ball, kill the clock for us. Dynamic. But the reliance that they've had on May, it felt like they were going to have a little bit of a run game going into the year. And, even just run attempts-wise, they have not necessarily tried to open up that part of the offense. I guess 21 for 19, a little bit of a bounce. Henderson with 11, I guess we're just looking at the yards as well, too. Not necessarily killer yards, but May himself with 7. So 21 carries from the running backs, but May as well, too. The leading rusher. But he is, again, just getting more comfortable being in the pocket, going through his reads, and just hitting the simple passes. Like, I know, again, like, are we being critical of, like, okay, that's where we want Caleb Williams to get to in a way. Like, he's just hitting the simple passes. But it was a little bit in the Ben Johnson offense earlier on in some of those early drives in those first 2 games where, the plays were a little too simple. And it's like just these basic checkdowns, these easy routes versus, Drake May going through his read and then finding the guy underneath that's open that the defense is like, that's a little bit different than just, okay, drop back and get the ball out and the guy's like 5 yards down the field. We just got to make this as easy as possible. Like, there is a trust, again, that they have in Drake May to be a little bit of a complete quarterback. Maybe that's just him, being a little bit more farther along and being a pocket passer in that way. But he is showing it, and again, the turnovers are still something that's haunting, and honestly, it's a good thing for the rest of the NFL fans that he is having these moments, because otherwise, again, it would be, I don't want to say, is it Brady-esque, because he's a different type of player. But there is a confidence and there is an ability with him in the pocket going through the reads, and he's not Brady, but it is almost like he would find the guy that Brady would find. Again, his physical makeup is probably a little bit different, and I think just his, again, the way he arrives at his work is a little bit different as well, too, but I think they would be finding similar receivers on certain passes. Like, okay, I could see that. That's like a Brady-esque kind of look there, and that's a Brady-esque look there, and I don't know what the influence there as well, too, is because, Brady's a Raiders guy, too. He's not even a Patriots guy. And, it's not like I don't know if the organizations get along crazy. I guess it's more of a Belichick thing, that the organizations are, beefing with that side of the things. But, yeah, he is continuing to look really good as a quarterback prospect. And 1 and 2 is tough. And, again, offensively, they haven't quite gotten the full effect, or they haven't quite fully been as good as I think maybe they'd hoped for. A little bit lower scoring. That Dolphins game, obviously, they were able to move the ball up and down the field. And the Steelers' defense did not look great last week, but who knows? Maybe it is actually good defense and just, maybe or week to week inconsistent. Who knows? But they did travel to New England as well, too. And Rodgers has never won in New England, but would have felt like a place where maybe the Steelers' defense would not have showed up necessarily as well, too. So do we have the 49ers defense making a... There we go, chat. There's the stop. As I say, Kyler Murray with the attempt down the field to Zay Jones, not able to get it to go. So the Niners will get the ball back with about a minute and a half. And maybe Brock Purdy, this game's not 15-13, who knows. But also NFC West battle. Feels like it could be. But maybe you would definitely trust him a little bit more in this situation than Mac Jones. So as good as Mac Jones is at getting the stats, and maybe there's a perception there. Again, there is a trustworthiness that, of course, Purdy has earned at his time in the Niners. But yeah, Drake May is earning it as well too. Oh, and I think they just touched back the punt as well. So Chargers chat with a chance to kick a go-ahead field goal, game-winning field goal here from, I guess we'll get a yardage thing once we actually see where he's lined up at. It's not looking like it's going to be overly difficult, but the Chargers are a dramatic team. It's tied, so it would only go to overtime if he missed. Nobody, a miss is not a loss anyways. But Denver losing back-to-back weeks on field goals would be a brutal way to start the season. And 43 yards, definitely, a little bit tough here for Denver fans. The kick is up, and it looks like we got it right through the middle. So the Chargers get the ugly win, 23-20. Denver has hung around in some of these games, but has just not quite found a way to close it out. And Bo Nix, maybe he looks a little bit better in the second half. I don't know if we'll have to do a split and a first half, second half split, and see what it looked like there. But that last shot to Courtland Sutton was definitely a tough one. He should have got that look. And there's been a couple of those throughout the game over the last couple of weeks that would definitely have helped where this team has been at early in the season. They could be 3-0. Unfortunately, now their one win is against a pretty tough Titans team. But we'll see if this is the bad luck team for early in the season, or if this is just like the bad luck, not closing out games type team for the full season. But 3 weeks in, 1-2 to start is a little bit down on your luck if that's not where you're necessarily thinking where the season's going to go. But Chicago is going to close this one out, and we'll see, I guess, here a little bit in the background. Hopefully they don't change it on us, chat. Ayo. I guess this would be Fox, though, so they would probably carry over the coverage of this one as well, too. A minute 10, though, can it pause a little bit longer than this Bears game? Somehow this Bears game needs to last longer than the 49ers game. Oh, Milton's in for the Bears, chat. He just fired a pick in the defender. I don't know how the defender was able to catch that. But I think was just going for the speed cannon on that. Just like, okay, next gen stats, just track the heat on this throw. I'm just trying to register fastest throw of the year. I don't even care if it's accurate. So if it gets caught by the defender, does that count? Does it get registered in fastest throw of the year if it's an interception? The fastest throw of the year is Joe Milton, like an 85-mile-an-hour interception in the fourth quarter of this game. So the Caleb Williams just kneeled it out, chat. Victory formation. I don't know if Caleb Williams has done that in the NFL yet, at least, again, based on an offensive performance. So Ben Johnson with his first win at home is fun as well, too. Hopefully it's a long pause, a tenure for Ben Johnson and the Bears. I guess for his sake, maybe other things. But also, just Bears fans, I think tenure is what we're hoping for there. But 25 seconds left in this Niners game, chat. I guess, are they going to give us video here? Let's see. We can go second screen and see. Oh, chat. Red zone is going to cut off the coverage. So hopefully Fox clutches up and gives us the end of the game. Oh, I don't think they are, chat. Hey, yo. We're just going to have to go on the play-by-play for the last minute. I guess last 25 seconds. Even the NFL app is lagging behind here a little bit. Can we? I might just throw on the radio call and just see. Let me turn it up here real quick. I'm going to have to mute the TV so I can focus on the audio of the radio call. Oh, wait a second. We just unmuted a baseball game. The WNBA game, I guess, is now a baseball game. The Mariners are up. Mariners-Astros? Okay, it's a fun jersey matchup anyways. It's peak non-baseball fan stuff. But, okay, here we go, chat. We've got the radio call. The last couple of seconds. Oh, the ESPN's going to spoil this. We're going to listen to the call. Sorry for the silence. They call a timeout? I'm not looking at the ESPN because I don't want to spoil it. But I don't even know where they're at on the field. Is this a Hail Mary? Is this a field goal? McCaffrey just made a play? Oh, Chad, okay. Niners at the 16. I mean, I know the game is on front. It's probably on final. But our peripheral vision apparently is not good enough. We can't actually see it. I legitimately don't know the score of the game. Chat, I'm looking away. I guess if I look at the TV, they might spoil it as well, too. Okay, nothing on the TV. They're just running top 10 plays. Horton was the one with the punt return earlier for the touchdown. So I guess there are, field goal range. No, shout out our guy Jake Moody, but, they've gone different route there for the kicker. So, Mac Jones, he did his job, chat. Hey, yo, I guess, did Kyler Murray do his job as well, too? That safety, and he could have closed out the game or at least gotten a field goal where the Niners would have needed a touchdown. Mac Jones at least has gone the length of the field, so he at least would have had a shot at the end zone here at the end of the game. Oh, Chad, I just saw movement out of the corner of my eye, but I can't read anything on the screen, so I don't know if that game just went final on the ESPN. And the kick is up, and there it is, Chad. The Niners just won the game. Oh, Chad, spoiler alert. The ESPN was actually not ahead. Okay, classic for the NBA. It always is. But in this case, with the refresh. The play is not registered yet. Apparently the radio is way ahead. So shout out to the Niners for getting the win. There we go, chat. It finally registered 16-15. They got it out. No Purdy. And they're able to close this one out. The Cardinals going into the game undefeated, I guess, as well, too. So they get their first loss of the season. The Niners moved to 3-0. I know with the Rams, I guess, taking the loss in the division, they will move to number 1 in the division as well. Seattle is, 1-1, so 2-1. They'll have the best record. I guess undefeated teams, Buffalo, Dallas Green Bay. I guess Dallas is the one that gets the pick because of the Micah Parsons trade. The value of that. Hey, yo. So Buffalo, Philly, San Fran, Tampa, Indy, the Chargers. Those are our undefeated teams, chat. I think maybe there's a couple outliers there. We'll just have to see, but maybe for 2025, that is some version of the power ranking. I mean, I wouldn't be so shocked off of that. Again, the Rams would be a sleeper in there. Washington. I get Baltimore 1-1. Ayo. Got to score a little bit down the rankings. Kansas City. Ayo. But, shout out to the, Niners for staying undefeated. It is a good start for a season that we thought maybe, who knows if they continue to trend backwards, and then the injuries happen. It's like, uh-oh, here it goes. But they managed some wins, so, who knows? I guess I don't know how many more weeks Purdy is out, but at least securing a divisional one there is important. So, shout out, chat. The late slate, of course, not disappointing, at least for Bears fans, getting finally a good performance from our guy Caleb Williams. Ayo, chat. It is what it is. But let's take a quick break, and we've got, of course, the final bit of the show, chat, before Sunday Night Football here fires up. Don't go anywhere, chat. Week 3 of the NFL is in the books, but we still got a little bit of the Remington pod left. So right after this.
All right, chat, we are back. Sunday Night Football is quickly approaching. Chiefs versus Giants is on the slate. And, obviously we're going to learn a couple of things about whether or not Kansas City is legit tonight. If they go 0-3, that is, of course, really concerning. I think maybe even just losing to the Giants at any point, even with the feistiness that the Giants showed last week is concerning as well, too. Just Pat Mahomes, Giants, this level. I mean, look at Orlovsky's face here, chat. I mean, if he's looking like this about Pat Mahomes, it's a serious situation. -5.5 feels a little bit like, New York. I don't know. Is that even people kind of like in New York a little bit as well, too? Casey's still on the advanced stats side with a pretty good chance to win anyways. But, their defense played really well against the Eagles, and I think that, of course, has been a real strong point for them the last couple of years. And even though there's, still some continued change over there, it's like, maybe Chiefs fans, there's an expectations that with Spags and with some of the studs that they can get some sort of similar production and that the impact that they've showed on just that team's success for the last couple of years, that their defense can still manage to have that in a way. But there could be it's a good sign of, it's a sign of a good team, of course, if you can go on the road in general. But again, their offense is they're often struggled at home anyways. So if their defense is a little bit iffy tonight against the Giants, that could be a little home road thing where it's like, oh, is this the signs of like, oh, really? And again, a loss in general, it's like 0-3, you're probably done. But if they have to win maybe you want to win a high scoring game just to show you can win a high scoring game. But I guess if there's a stats thing, if the Giants are kind of like comfortably moving the ball, it feels like there's points left on the board. If it just feels like their defense is not playing at that level on the road, like maybe it was a little bit in Sao Paulo as well, too, where it felt like they got pushed around a little bit by the Chargers, then maybe even with a 1-2 thing, you're like, it's not feeling super great about it. And for the Giants, we are saying, what if there is some feistiness there for them? But, again, we just saw what Caleb Williams did to this Cowboys defense, and that's who they played last time, and that's who they just torched, and Russell Wilson had almost the best game of his career. Like, literally, Russell Wilson almost had the best game of his career, and Russell Wilson is nowhere near the best version of himself. And, as respectfully to the other versions of Russell Wilson as well, too. Like, he hit some really great levels as a player. So maybe he can still be awesome as well. But just saying, the Cowboys just gave up 2 career days in a row. So we'll also see if whether or not, how crazy the Cowboys defense is in terms of a stat accumulator thing. Because this might just be, if you're playing fantasy, just try to somehow get the quarterback that's playing the Cowboys defense every week. If that's like a fantasy, like a waiver wire potential, like, I don't know, here we'll see the schedule, who they're playing. Like, I guess Russell Wilson next time they play is probably going to be major watch listed if he's not already rostered because of this. Again, Caleb Williams with the day today. Jordan Love, like, lock that in, chat. Sunday night, Jordan Love, the bounce back. That's the Micah Parsons rematch. There's more storylines there than just, is Jordan Love going to have more good stats because of what the Cowboys defense has given up? But, if he throws for like 350 and 3-4 touchdowns, he's Sunday Night Football, he's right back in the MVP conversation. This is what we mean right here, like this week 5-6 stretch maybe. Bryce Young versus this Cowboys defense. If Fields is back in week 5, I don't know what his timeline is yet, but even Tyrod Taylor, who had some, Tyrod Taylor might be like 25th best quarterback in the league. Like, maybe in a good way as well, too. I don't know if you could say that in a good way. But also, maybe he is like a 300-yard quarterback against the Cowboys defense. I guess the mark is like, who is a 350-yard quarterback against the Cowboys defense? Because, again, if Russ is, going back and tapping back into something in time, like, his highest levels that he's been to, again, are higher levels than, what Fields or Bryce Young have achieved to this point. But he also got to like 450 yards. So if we even back off of that a little bit, maybe it's like a 300-yard sort of 325-yard checklist. Maybe we just have to average it out. I guess, what did Caleb Williams have today for in total? That'll be the barrier for what the other quarterbacks can get to over the question mark quarterbacks that they play over the course of the year here. Let's see what we got. 298. Chad, he didn't even get to 300. I guess 4 touchdowns here. It was great, and maybe some short field as well too. We're gonna look at the positive in the stat line for sure. It was the best game of his career. Burden 3 for 101. Adunze 3 for 62. Swift 3 for 45.
You got Moore, 4 for 21, so still some receptions, but a little bit more around the line of scrimmage type stuff. So you can see maybe the balance and the dynamics of how to use the receivers in the offense as well, too. Maybe starting to get figured out. Jake Ferguson, 13 for 82. Sorry, Pickens, but it's like I just throw into Ferguson for now on 14 targets. So Ferguson, if CeeDee Lamb is missing any time, is now the newest most valuable guy in fantasy at this point. And honestly, they probably should have just run the ball more. I get they were down probably a lot as well, but maybe earlier on, just figured out how to mix that in a little bit because, again, Williams and Sanders were both having pretty good success. I was going to say moving it around, but hey, yo, that's pretty crazy. So shout out. Joe Milton, 3 for 41 is not bad. A pick, not great, though, adding that in the mix. But, yeah, so I guess we'll round up and say 300 yards. So I guess Bryce Young only had 120 today. So 300 against the Cowboys defense would be pretty good. Fields, anytime he would be in that 300-yard mix, you'd always be really happy about that. I mean, that's just a great threshold for any quarterback in general. Daniels, of course. But Bo Nix as well, too. Kyler, Geno. I mean, they got a good middle-of-the-season run there outside of Jaden Daniels where they have, maybe there's some opportunity to pick some guys up off the waiver wire. I guess Fields is going to have the rushing attempts, but, like, Bryce Young is a good one. If somebody's not just a biased Bryce Young fan, somebody just loves Alabama or for some reason loves the Panthers or something, like, you could probably get Bryce Young on the waiver wire. Bo Nix, by the time we get to week 8, you could probably get Bo Nix on the waiver wire. Geno, he's probably on and off the waiver wire at this point because he had good stats again today. So, somebody's probably rostering him as well. And McCarthy, week 15, like, McCarthy might have to wait till week 15 to finally get right. I guess he already had one good, like, showing national TV-wise as well, too. But to really unlock the stats, week 15 against the Cowboys defense is the place to be. But, yeah, wait, here, let's double-check let's cross-reference, I guess, or just, I guess, double-check Caleb Williams' career stats here. He's had to have 300 yards last year in a game, right? I feel like we looked that up already, but at some point. But just to double-check here, 363, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Oh, against Indy, Chad. Hey, yo. So, turns out his career highs against the Colts. Hey, yo. It's still okay. So he had 300 yards a couple of times. Again, it was not a great record. They won. I guess they were better to start the year than we thought, and then really fell off after that, losing a bunch of games in a row before that last win against the Packers. And funny enough, he didn't throw any really picks as well too at the end of last year. I kind of remember that. Started the year, first 6 games, 4-2, 65% completion percentage, 219 a game. 9 touchdowns and 5 picks. So, just a little bit under 2-1 there. And then the run to end the season, I guess, before that win against the Packers, which was kind of efficient, but not a lot of yards. So we're not giving him credit for it. Hey, yo, but 59% completion percentage over the next 10 games. 0 for 10. 10 touchdowns to 1 pick, though. So that would be the silver lining of the production. And, touchdown-wise, he did get better in the second half of that run. Yeah, he went to 62%, a little bit better, but 230 a game, and then, yeah, that would be the 10 touchdowns and 1 pick were over a 6-game stretch there instead of that 10-game span. And then, added a touchdown, some completion percentage, and then 148 yards in that win against the Packers. But I think in terms of, do we go completion percentage as well, too? We have to check. I guess they did get the win, so we only have 5 of those to choose from beforehand. Okay, wait, Jacksonville... He was 23 for 29, 226, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. So I do remember this game. He did have the 4 touchdowns today and no picks. So this game is better. 19 for 28 he's a little bit more efficient in the Jacksonville game. But otherwise, a loss to Green Bay, he was 74%, 231, no touchdowns, no picks. Yardage-wise, a win against Carolina. So maybe this one, 20 for 29, 304 yards and 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, 126. Oh, wait a second here. Let's just sort quarterback rating and see what we get. Yeah, that would be his highest quarterback rating. And then that game with the 4 touchdowns and pick would be his other one. He's still quarterback rating of 124 in that game. So, good on that one there. And then against the Rams, a 24-18 win, 17 for 23, 158, 157 yards and a touchdown in that one. So not crazy, production off the efficiency there as well. So that game against Indy, they lost 16-21. He was 33 for 52, 363, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. So only an 80 quarterback rating for his highest yardage total. Actually, like bottom half of games that he's played earlier on so far. So wait a second. Okay, we're figuring this out, chat. We should just check his quarterback rating. Let's see what he got here. Is it going to list it on NFL? It's not, but I think it'll list it on the old Bleacher Report app here. So let's see if we can pull up the box score and see what he got. Oh, and I'm pulling up Bleacher Report. I forgot they scored off that flea flicker earlier. So we got to count those stats out. So did they run a flea flicker in that Jacksonville game? I feel like that counts as an interception, even though it ended up as a touchdown. Prescott had an 80.3 for a quarterback rating today. Yeah, 2 picks. He's going to bring that down. Caleb Williams, 142.6. Oh, he got the GOAT emoji. That might be the first, maybe second. I guess those 120s, he probably got a GOAT emoji. 116. I feel like the 107, 106, 103 quarterback ratings, he probably got a fire emoji. I don't know if that's a GOAT emoji. That's probably just a really, really good performance. Let's see, I guess Daniel Jones today versus the Titans. Did he? Yeah, he had 1 touchdown, 22. Yeah, he had a 113.4 quarterback rating, and he had the fire emoji. So maybe this 116.7 is in a 38-13 loss. They may just change it to the fire emoji just because. I don't know if he gets a GOAT emoji on that. But I guess here, Chad, what's Daniel Jones? We have to just go passing leaders here. What do we have for? I guess this would be going into today, including the Thursday night game for the passing rating leaders. So Josh Allen might just be number 1 in that with the extra game as well too, and not throwing a pick through the first couple of games. Extra impressive. Herbert passer rating index. Not even sure what this stat is. He's just got a 137 on passer rating index, and they don't have like a show full leaderboard type of situation. View all players in this category. Yeah, they just have the top 9, top 10 listed here. So you got Rodgers at a 106 is top 10. Ayo, Drake May, number 7, 109. It goes, Herbert, Goff, Love, Daniel Jones, Josh Allen, Stafford, Drake May, Kyler, Baker, Aaron Rodgers. I wonder why Lamar's not in there for this year. Maybe just volume as well too. Some rushing attempts in the mix. Yeah, just replace him with Rodgers, chat. Goff at number 2 though, even after the way that Packers game played out. I guess we'd have to go back and look at his stats. Maybe he was able to keep his stats. Kind of okay. McCarthy, 3 fumbles, but 2 fumbles recovered for McCarthy. So, technically 1 fumble for him there. Wait a second. We didn't find the actual quarterback rating spot. Non-offensive touchdowns. Well, now I guess Rodgers with 2 in the mix. Because Horton got 2 touchdowns today, but one of them was offensive. So they would be over that category. Oh, yeah, so here we go. Lamar, number 1 in QBR. Goff, Herbert, Mahomes. Oh, Mahomes, still number 4, chat. We just kind of read past that casually. So, hey, still got that status, of course. But, this year, eye test-wise, I don't know if that we've seen. But that does really account for some of the rushing stuff as well, too. So the advanced stats are still, Goff was, I guess, just so good in that last game that it just is carrying him. Let's see here. Yeah, 5 touchdowns, 82%, 334, and 5 touchdowns. And I guess, 79% against Green Bay, 225, a touchdown and a pick. So the percentages on the season are good. And when you have 5 in one game and you are able to balance it out now, you're 6-1. Yeah, he leads the league in completion percentage and touchdowns. So he is having a good stat season there. Even if it is a little dramatic in the way the 2 games played out. But do they have passer rating? Just a basic passer rating stat. And this is the leaders. Why can't I just get the standard player stats here? So much easier this way. So yeah, Allen, of course, the leader in yards. So shout out. I guess Prescott was leading with, or wait a second. Was Prescott leading in picks or touchdowns? Was he not leading in something? I think Goff was just similar in yards to him there. Yeah, that's what. Okay, Prescott to 2 touchdowns. I was gonna say, hey, I thought we just saw Goff there, but yeah, Goff and Lamar both at 6, and the less game than Allen as well too. And both those guys play tomorrow night. So I was gonna say, I guess did Herbert probably passed him today. I guess Rodgers does have 5 today, so that's more them not running as well too. I don't know if they have as many touchdowns overall as a team, but they're still scoring maybe more. Today all touchdowns versus the field goals. So there is something a little bit there. Yeah, they're at least maintaining feisty status as well too, continuing to maybe look like a wild card team. In a good way. The Rodgers thing at least hasn't been a disaster through 3 games. It looked like it could have trended that way. And again, today wasn't great. The Patriots are maybe not a well-rounded opponent versus a couple of really good players, but again, you're able to secure a win, and Rodgers is able to make some plays. But here we go, actual quarterback rating. So I don't even remember who we were looking for at that point. Mac Jones is 5th. I don't remember who we needed to see who had the great quarterback rating. Somebody was having a good day. Oh, Caleb Williams. That's what it was, chat. Ayo. So he's behind Spencer Rattler, chat. Spencer Rattler's 18th. Caleb Williams is 19th. Then Penix. Then Prescott. Then Darnold. Then Hurts. Ooh. And then Tua. Then Stroud. Mahomes at 27th. Ayo. Gino, the worst in the league. McCarthy. Cam Ward. You don't like to see that. Bryce Young. Ayo. Moving up the list, chat. 29. Career high. Getting close to Mahomes. Mahomes is 27. Rodgers, 12. Yeah, Drake May up there, like we were saying. So Daniel Jones, I think, is originally what we were looking for. He is number 6 right now in quarterback rating. And Mac Jones, he's got quarterback rating steroids called Kyle Shanahan, so I don't even know if he counts. So technically, Daniel Jones, top 5 quarterback in the... Maybe he does need to be in the MVP. I guess the QBR, we could see... Oh, that's right. He was 6th in this stat. Hey, yo. So Mac Jones is the one that has the discrepancy, and Stafford as well, too. A little bit of a discrepancy for Love. Maybe that's the rushing thing, like we're saying. But Lamar and Goff, I guess, are like the 2 best quarterbacks in the league this year, and Herbert with Jordan Love. So wait, where was Goff's MVP odds at? What if the Lions turn it around? I guess I was gonna say they can't do to the Packers what they did to them in week 1. But the score wasn't. I'm kind of combining like, oh yeah, wait, who had 55? Like the Packers didn't have 55 on the Lions. The Lions had 55 on the Bears, and that Packers game was dominant, but they put up a couple points late, closed the score. So if they do have a dominant performance in a way against the Packers, or just have a really good rest of the regular season to make up for that, then he could be in the mix. And again, the advanced stats really like him. Losing Ben Johnson and continuing to play well. So Goff at 30-1. Again, I guess we're going into tomorrow night against the Ravens defense. He could put up numbers against. It could be high scoring. Again, Lamar's awesome, so Ravens probably gonna win the game. Shout out. That'd be my pick, anyways. But I guess I don't know. But but Goff at 30-1 is interesting MVP odds, because then you go Rodgers is a couple spots down. I mean, immediately you go Goff to Daniel Jones. Purdy, he might just miss too much time at this point, and I don't know if I can quite see Purdy getting to the MVP level. This could be a cash out if it raises up in value. Though Goff feels like, again, the Lions have been kind of verge. He's been verge award status, and if he actually continued to produce really good numbers outside of those really good coaches, then again, I feel like the voters would be more inclined. But Caleb Williams is up to 65-1. You got Darnold, Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, Saquon is where you start to hit the drop off. So maybe Sam Darnold should be a little higher than Caleb Williams. I don't know, Rodgers. It does feel like there's some definite tiers here. But Goff, I guess, randomly just looking at some of the numbers, does seem like he could be decent, at least MVP betting value right now at 30-1. And if, I guess, they play really well tomorrow night, he has the chance, especially against a Ravens team, Lamar, like those odds could immediately get cut in half after tomorrow's game. Because, again, Love didn't look that great. You got Herbert will probably still be in this same range, probably still top 3 after today. I don't know if those odds will shift. But Daniel's missing a game. And then Stafford, didn't get the win, so I don't know if his odds will move up. Hurts might move up, and they're probably still live updating this. But you could see him jumping over maybe Baker as well, too, if he gets a really good stats win against the Ravens. It just looks really impressive. Because, again, you would say they do have a bad performance against a good team. But Baker, 3 kind of pull it out pause performances against 3 okay teams. Maybe still give Goff the credit for the dominant performances against the Bears and a good win against the Ravens. If they are able to get that. And, 4.5 for the Ravens, I know that they are at home and we love Lamar, but I don't know if their defense 4.5. Again, the Detroit offense was really cooking in that Bears game, so I feel like they can keep it close, Chet. That feels a little disrespectful for the Lions. Hey, yo, we might be doing a little, I guess, jinx of the Lions, Chat. We're gonna jinx the Lions. It is what it is. We'll be betting the team to probably win the game, and we'll do some big look-ahead storyline bets on what we might think some of the award stuff plays out to be. I guess probably Goff. I don't know if we do like a Campbell Coach of the Year. Probably not. Gibbs, he's not gonna win MVP, of course. So yeah, Goff. Hutchinson maybe. I don't know. Defensive Player of the Year. If he has like a couple sacks, if this game really goes crazy. I guess if he sacks Lamar a couple times, then yeah, he might win Defensive Player of the Year just based on that one game. But yeah, interesting. Good thing. I guess good thing we looked at the numbers, because I do feel Yeah, I guess I feel good that we might be able to cash out on that one at some good odds later on if he continues to climb up the board. But we got to mention some college football as well too, real quick, Chad. Of course, we had another Saturday of games. Michigan ended up being in kind of a highlight game, also because it turned out to be a really good game. But Nebraska, not a ranked team, Chat. Hey, I don't know if they're going to be a ranked team after playing Michigan close. They might be. Again, it was a good game. Hey, Texas. Wait, we got to look at the Arch Manning stats real quick, because I haven't actually seen them yet. I did see the run play, and I haven't seen any of the other highlights. But hey, Sam Houston Bearcats 0-4 after this game. Texas was able to put up a dominant amount of points, so that's good as well. Arch Manning 18 for 21, 309, and 3 touchdowns. Okay, we're gonna have to go look and see if we approve of the 18 for 21, and if he was making sure to make all the reads, and was he leading guys, was he making sure just the checklist, I guess, that he wasn't quite getting in the last game. But yeah, Miami, Florida. I guess Florida's dropped out of the rankings. 1-3, and Lagway's not really impressed so far. But he's another one again. He's got a year, so next 2026 draft, we're still okay. Just not if it was 2025 draft. It wouldn't be too great. But Underwood again. He still has the Oklahoma game, I guess, from a couple of weeks ago. That is not necessarily super great, and still early on in their career. Again, maybe more so a credit to how good Oklahoma could be this year. They got another impressive win against a ranked team in Auburn, so they could be a team that just continues to climb the rankings and are definitely looking like they should be a playoff top 12 team of the year. But this, again, I think was it was a sneaky big moment game for Michigan. You've got Nebraska was undefeated going into the game. They're at home in the Big Ten opener. Again, Bryce Underwood's first Big Ten game is going to be on the road in a really good environment. Raiola has a year of experience and some hype as well, too. So it's like, Raiola might be like a quarterback, and this could be a really good matchup. And it did turn out to be a really good matchup, and I think that's really fun. And, again, fun that we got a good, a good one already. But sets up what could end up being a really fun matchup next year as well, too, because I think Raiola is also 2027 as well. I don't know if he'll be listed here on Tankathon or not, but I don't believe he is. Wait a second. We went by overall, by quarterbacks. I don't believe he is in the mix. Yeah, here we go. So 2027, we got Lagway, Arch Manning, and Raiola on the board. And yeah, at least in stats wise, again, Raiola is definitely having the best year. And I would say, again, just eye test as well too. He has played the best of three guys. It's literally not even close. Again, Lagway, unfortunately, is lagging a little bit behind in the stats. Hey, chat, got him. But again, Raiola has actually been like a legit guy and had an interception in this game that was not. He gets the Mahomes comparisons, of course, and I think they were talking about the arm angles and some of the stuff that he was trying to steal I guess he's because he's stealing everything from Mahomes. But some of the stuff stylistically that he's trying to copy from Mahomes and emulating his game with the arm angles and the baseball sort of crossover. But there is a little bit more Caleb Williams than I think Mahomes in his game, where at least early in the game, it did feel like there was a definite contrast in the passes where he was extending plays and the passes where he was in the pocket. Because when he was having to create and move outside the pocket, he was doing a really good job of finding the guys down the field. And the Nebraska defenders, Nebraska skill guys are pretty good as well too. I don't know if we look at the stats on these guys here real quick. Again, Raiola was able to put up some good numbers, 308 and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, Emmett Johnson, even though didn't have a crazy game, 19 for 65, he was still made some feisty plays. But Jacoby Barnes, 6 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. He was crazy. And Lidemeyer, 7 for 60. Dane Key, 3 for 36, 2 for 34, 5 for 32. Guys still making some, generally down the field type plays. But Barnes' ability to create separation and Raiola keeping his eyes down the field and finding him outside the pocket was really successful part of their offense. But but him in the pocket was a little bit early on, him kind of being erratic, flinging around. And Danielson at one point compared him more to Stafford, which again, there is crossover between all these guys as well too, stylistically, and how they play. But it was like, okay, he's really seeing the positiveness in Stafford there with how he is just whipping these whipping some of these passes into coverage, and not necessarily like, again, it feels like Stafford is making a quick decision versus Raiola was just like kind of making the first pass and just firing it in. Again, pause, because he does have good arm strength and all that stuff. But again, really was able to stay collected throughout the course of the game and have a really, really good performance, a better passing performance for sure than Underwood, at least on the numbers. Underwood, again, for the like, he is gonna be on the list of just favorite Michigan athletes if he continues to go in this direction, because he had some throws in that game where early on, again, like one to the back of the end zone that should have been caught. It was just an absolute dime. So the arm talent is definitely there, and he is already a dangerous runner. You see 8 for 61 in this game for a touchdown, and he broke off a 37-yard run as well too. That was the score. But Haynes with 17 for 149 and a touchdown, and Marshall 6 for 80 for a touchdown. Haynes with a long of 75 paws, and Marshall with 54 as well too. And again, this is not only just a whole new set of guys, like roster from the national championship basically, and a lot of the main pieces are of course very different at this point. If there's any sort of crossover at this point, I have to double check the roster and see. But to see what other names remember familiar. But kind of a whole newish coaching staff. You got Sharon Moore is of course in that Harbaugh lineage, and I think his ability to kind of keep the Harbaugh vibe around is going a little underrated right now. And again, I think this is maybe if they had gotten the Oklahoma win as well too, it played a little bit better in that game, it would have been a little bit more of a status type game. But this is a quality, they didn't drop a win that they were supposed to. They were supposedly, I guess supposedly they are, of course, but they were the better team going into this game, and they were able to go on the road and able to close out the victory. But they were able to still do it in that sort of Harbaugh type way. And again, it's been a couple of years now. Like, he's had to go in and rebuild and recruit his own guys. And in fairness, like, he's dealing with a whole new, in his point, almost beneficial set of recruiting circumstances where he's not almost even having to pitch a program as much anymore. But you've got these just booster packages that you're approaching these players with, and business opportunities and various things. And again, Michigan is a school that has the funds and the opportunities are as plentiful as any. So, now it's just a different pitch for Sharon Moore versus maybe the coaching on the field pitch. And, he still is proving that he is able to get a really good product from this team. Like, to be able to have a bad year and now a good year, again, yes, it's almost a good thing. Like, not a good thing, but there was definite, they definitely need to improve at the quarterback position. And again, fortunately enough, we were able to offer Bryce Underwood a good contract. But it does seem like he is in whatever, the offensive scheme that they are starting to start to put around him is in a good spot to have him, produce really well and to continue to develop into a high-level prospect. And, again, it'll be consistency and just refining the accuracy on a bunch of his throws, because the looks and the closeness at where he's at on some of these are just right there. And he has the athleticism on the ground where McCarthy was, a high, all these things, high-level recruit. McCarthy won a national title. Like, his belovedness in the Michigan quarterback sort of landscape is, almost unmatched at this point. But just Bryce Underwood's just raw pause, just the straight ability that he has, you can tell there's a extra level that he can get to. And he is, going to be a 3-year starter if he keeps trending forward as well, too, because he's already, looking. He already won the job this year, of course, but is already looking like a great just prospect and still managing to help the team win this year as well, too, with his athleticism and his playmaking. So that's why it'll be fun to see this quarterback matchup, hopefully a couple times. I don't know if there's like Big Ten playoff possibility, big, championship, Big Ten, or Big Ten teams in the playoffs. Maybe not this year, but in the future as well too, where we could, see a couple different versions of the matchup. But it was like it did feel like again, at least personality-wise, a high-level quarterback battle, and they both in various ways did produce. And again, Bryce Underwood, it's his 4th game in his career, so I know this whole first handful of games we'll get to say that it was only his such and such game of his career. But even for this one, first Big Ten game in that environment with that kind of hype, and to show the potential that he had early, of course, with the passing, and to be able to extend the game later in the runs is all great stuff. But again, from the program side of things, it's just I want to say a sigh of relief, but also great. But incredible that this honestly does feel like the most the program has again been, and it's not Harbaugh still being there over all these years. Like, yes, Harbaugh was there for a decade and was able to build a very identifiable culture and style of a team, and was able to acquire enough talent over the course of the time there to build one that was able to win a national title. But again, Sharon Moore has kept that style going, and I get it's still not at this point the same level of team that Harbaugh had it, where we were, by the last couple of years they're consistently a top 4 playoff team and in the mix, and then winning the national title there that last year. Even if whatever recruiting stuff was going on, or signals, it doesn't really matter. It was all legit. We won the title, but again, at least the talent is there for us to. You can see the talent for us to be that type of team again. And stylistically, this was that Jim Harbaugh era type win. And again, I don't know, 2 years only in the second year, whatever removed, if we're still technically in a Jim Harbaugh-esque era. But to be able to win this game with the runs late and breaking off the runs and the physicality to be able to open up those type of plays, like that is that Harbaugh formula. And, again, it's still there. So there was it was like hopefully that Sharon Moore is going to give us a good product, whatever it is. If it's just be able to define the program in your type of way. But again, it's like, okay, we have Michigan in some ways has always had an identity, of course, and a brand of football. But it was very, very similar. And again, totally new running backs, totally new quarterback, totally new offensive line. But just that second half, those late third quarter, fourth quarter runs where all of a sudden, and we had a couple in the first as well too. I feel like we scored 27 of our 30 points outside of the red zone. So it was a lot of those explosive plays. And that is something that, again, you don't necessarily think of Michigan as an explosive play offense, but because of our down the field passing, hasn't necessarily been the best. Like, we're not Tennessee in that element, but we do have the ability to just break off these runs late in the game. And our running back will be going 50, 60, 70 yards for a score in the third or fourth quarter, and we'll be closing out the game. And that's exactly what happened with these guys again. And again, against a team like Nebraska that is looking to kind of, stop that physicality, push us around type element, and they want to go in and match that as well too. So again, I'm really starting to buy up some Raiola stock as well. It helps when you have a good game and you don't win against our own team. Like, collect all the wins against the other teams. We're for that. Just, this is the perfect type of performance. But yeah, just in general, program wise for Michigan, yeah, I don't want to start feeling too good at 3-1, and we might be like the 18th team in the AP poll. But it does feel like the future for this team, and that was just again a really quality win against a feisty team in Nebraska. And I am beginning to wonder now too that we've extended the playoffs. I know that again, like, it's still the top 12 teams competing for the championship is still the top 12 teams regardless. It's like we're just again expanding past the amount of teams that can directly compete in a playoff setting. But I wonder if we also have to expand the AP poll as well too, and not crazy. Like, I'm not AP top 25 also. Yeah, I don't know if people are starting to, we can't change history. It's like, okay, well, I guess it's not a fake thing because it does. I guess the college, but the committee as well too, does have their own ranking. So if the AP just extends their ranking, again, it's just a made up thing. Who cares? It's just in a newspaper or on a blog post. So I wonder if for the official AP voting we need to go to like a 30 or a 35 team. Not again because of it makes the 12 team playoff different, but there is a talent spread thing as well too. So it does feel like a couple more teams outside the top 25 are competitive week to week. And you get teams like South Florida and stuff, and the rankings are adjusting and moving around. And it maybe just the most ranking adjustments we'll get this year, and we'll still walk away and be like, 28, 29 teams of that ilk, and obviously there's a 25 spot ranking. But I would be, if Nebraska was ranked like the 29th team in the nation. I think that'd be, the 21 versus the 29 team in the nation. Like, why not? And we can hype up all this stuff in a fake way. Because, again, Nebraska feels like a top 25 team. And I don't know if you can get in off a win. I guess, is the AP updated already Sunday night? I'm not sure. But here, let's look up AP poll. Oh, I guess here, week 4 college football. We'll see if it has. Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, it'll drop Sunday morning, I guess. But I was going to say we could just look up what the rankings would be from last week and see if they got any votes as well too, which I guess would be right here. But here, let's see if it has a others voted for category, or if Nebraska's up, or if Michigan's up as well too. Where did Michigan get to? Because I think on the ESPN, I thought I saw like an ESPN FPI thing that had us at 10. So I think we could double check that as well too. So yeah, we're up to 19, a little jump. We got to go up a couple spots just because of a win like that. So Nebraska not receiving any votes. Other receiving votes, Auburn, even though they lost, still a ton of votes. Mississippi State, South Florida drops out, unfortunately. Utah, Arizona State, Memphis, Louisville, Maryland, UNLV, UFC, and North Texas with 2 votes. So nobody thought Nebraska was a top 25 team. Maybe they look like they could be a top 25 team. I don't know. They look pretty good. But, again, you feel like, 12-team playoffs, so that 15 teams in a given season could be playoff-level teams if there's a couple of teams being left out, 14 to 15 teams. So that means your last 10 spots are, 25 is not so close to being to 15 where it's like, oh, you're outside of the, the gap is smaller, pause. So we could just go to 30 teams on the ranking, and then maybe 35 in a couple years after we expand the playoff again. But once the playoff goes to 16 teams or whatever, if more than half of the ranked teams get into the playoffs, you just got, and at this point, it is basically half. So if half of the ranked teams are getting into the playoffs, just extend the rankings, and that fixes your whole problem. I solved it, chat. But, I guess, we might have to go to 35 to actually get Nebraska. Nebraska a ranking here. But do we just want to get Michigan ranked wins? Let's get Nebraska ranked 35th in the nation so we get Michigan ranked wins. Even though we're only 21. I guess we could get ranked wins against teams above us, like Oklahoma, but apparently not quite yet. We still need a couple more Bryce Underwood games. But, again, he's trending in the right direction. And there is a couple drops and stuff as well, too. So, receivers, it's all headed the right way. Even still, the 3-1 that we're at is pretty impressive. It's impressive enough. We are in a good spot for Michigan fans for this year. But what we did see, I guess here, Miami jump up. I feel like the top of the AP is starting to sort itself out a little bit. Though we got Ohio State, Miami, Penn State, LSU, Georgia, Oregon still at 6. I guess they're going to have to play a real team, chat. So what's the Oregon schedule here? Oregon football schedule. When do they, and you're going to start conference play soon. So if not already, I guess with Oregon State as well. Who did they play this last week? Was it Oregon State? I don't remember. So, oh wait, we got Penn State this week? Here we go. Okay. You get what you ask for sometimes, chat. Yeah, so Oregon State 1 week, Penn State. So this will be the, does Oregon go to number 1 in the ranking if they win this game? I mean, Penn State would probably obviously go arguably to number 1 in the ranking if they got over Oregon as well, too. So that's potentially a belt game for sure. And then Indiana. I mean, they look crazy. So wait, they're 11 right now, even after that win against Illinois. So I think they might have jumped up quite a bit. Oh, yeah, 19. So they moved up 7 spots. It's a pretty good jump, and in theory, they moved into the playoff range. And wait, Illinois, they basically took Illinois' spot in the ranking, which I think makes sense. Again, early in the season, kind of adjusting to what you see. You still got Texas in the top 10, but I think we need to see Texas. We need to see Arch play good against a good opponent before. I would honestly, at this point, trust Oregon and Dante more than Texas. Just I don't know. It's still, I'm irrationally believing in Arch Manning. It is what it is. But maybe I'm trying to be reasonable and think that Oregon would be better. Georgia with Gunnar Stockton and the way that they looked against Tennessee. I mean, I don't know how you don't think that they're up there as well too for the top teams in the nation. Even though I don't know where Gunnar Stockton is at in everybody's trust level, but I still think college, with the way that he played in that game, that he showed that I think he can be a legit playoff level quarterback, and we'll see if he can transfer over into like a championship, obviously level quarterback with maybe some later performances. LSU, I mean, that tier of the ranking is pretty close. And I think Oklahoma is there as well too. The defense is trending in the right direction. Mateer seems like to be a real guy. Florida State's earning that respect as well. Bama sitting at 17 after not playing is, a little bit of a ways out from the playoff at this point. But SEC play will definitely allow them to get back in with the competition. You got Texas A&M in the top 10 as well too. Some of these teams could filter themselves out. But yeah, I would have, Oregon over LSU just for I guess LSU people maybe still holding on to that Clemson win a little bit, but how can you? I don't know. I just, the impressiveness of the way they've won some of these games is pretty convincing. So I would honestly, I could honestly see it being Ohio State, Miami, Oregon as a top 3 right now. Maybe Penn State, Georgia, Oklahoma as those next 3, and then LSU in that same tier. So maybe I think Miami and Ohio State are kind of in their own tier at this point. Then maybe you put Oregon in that next tier, these next 5 teams in that tier. Because Florida State with that win over Bama, I guess we could as well too. But maybe we, just based on preseason notoriety, we just need a little bit more from them. But I don't know if conference play is going to lend itself for that, I guess. But just consistency would obviously help. But yeah, the Oregon thing is starting to look scary. We'll see if Dan Lanning is, turning that program in. Obviously he has, but continuing to turn that into maybe the scariest football this year. And Dante Moore's talent just secretly, maybe being unlocked. It's there. It's there. I don't know if he's, number 1 stats guy right now, but if they just continue to dominate like this, then, Heisman odds and stuff are obviously going to start being talked about. But Sunday Night Football is right around the corner, chat. So we got to go. We got to make sure that we watch this Chiefs game, I guess, very nervously. And hopefully Mahomes doesn't drop to 0-3 and turns into a disaster start of the season. But week 3, and, ending up will be fun as well, too, with Lions versus Ravens tomorrow. But the Sunday day games, of course, in the books. Another Rem and Sam podcast, NFL coverage edition in the books as well, too. We'll be back later in this week, hanging out, reacting, of course, to the Monday night game. And we've got some other fun stuff for the Tuesday night pod chat. You got to be here on the YouTube. Live, of course. We'll be here next week as well, too, during the Sunday afternoon games. Hanging out. We will, like I said, be live Tuesdays, Fridays. The schedule is the same here on the Rem and Sam pod. So if there's one thing, chat, you know where to find us here on the YouTube. You can also find us on the podcast feeds. You can also, hit us up on Instagram at Rem and Sam pod as well, too, if you want to send us a DM. The DMs are open over there. So we'll either see you Tuesday, chat. We'll see you next week. And we'll see you Friday. Like I said, we'll be on. We'll be live. We'll be here on the YouTube. And we'll see y'all later. I guess at some point. Hey, yo, chat. We look forward to it. And we thank you guys for jumping on with us tonight. So go enjoy the rest of your evening. Go enjoy Sunday Night Football. And I guess hopefully it doesn't go too bad for our guy Sam and his Chiefs tonight.